Chapter 91. Fu Yunruo didn't want to talk anymore, so she had to go back quickly. Hence, she said goodbye to see you and hurried home. The moment Fu Yunruo entered the house, she saw Wenwen standing at the door with an unfriendly look in his eyes. Where did you go? Why did you take so long to come back? Hearing this questioning tone, Fu Yunruo quickly explained, the estate's property management looked for me to talk about something. I didn't notice that we were talking for so long. I didn't see you when I went out. Wenwen's eyes widened. His mother had actually lied to him. Could it be that the person who came was Siyu? That's because we went somewhere else to talk. Fu Yunruo almost couldn't find an excuse. She quickly held Wenwen's hand. Have you eaten just now? Mommy didn't eat. I'm so hungry. Qian Shangnan brought the food out of the kitchen and explained. Wenwen refused to eat. He insisted on waiting for you to come back. Hence, she took the food to the kitchen to warm it first. Fu Yunruo's heart ached as she touched Wenwen's stomach. She felt that this little watermelon had lost a little weight. She was annoyed. Siyu had picked the wrong time. It's Mommy's fault. Mommy shouldn't have forgotten the time. Wenwen was coaxed a little, and his expression softened. Then, he said with a straight face, don't do this again. Otherwise, I'll be angry. Mommy definitely won't do it again. Fu Yunruo quickly promised. Then, Fu Yunruo quickly served Wenwen food so that he wouldn't lose weight from hunger. After eating, Fu Yunruo accompanied Wenwen to do his homework. Then, it was time for the mother and son to interact. Fu Yunruo really wanted to ask Wenwen why he didn't accept Siyu, but after thinking about it, she decided to let them settle it themselves. In any case, she was unconditionally on Wenwen's side. If Fu Yunruo didn't mention it, Wenwen took the initiative to bring it up. Mommy, you have to be obedient. Yes, I'll be obedient. You can't be swayed by Siyu's sugar-coated bullets. He has ulterior motives. Wenwen obviously didn't believe that it was the property management that came to look for her during dinner. Although this matter was over, it still had to be emphasized. Yes, don't worry, I won't. After Fu Yun responded, she patted Wenwen's head. You have to be polite. You can't call your elders by their names. What kind of elder is he? Wenwen snorted. Fu Yunruo dragged her voice. Wenwen, it's Uncle Yu. Wenwen said reluctantly. Fu Yun patted his head. Wenwen puffed up her chubby cheeks. Don't change the topic. Wenwen made a few more requests, and Fu Yunruo agreed to them all. Seeing that Fu Yunruo's attitude was good, he ended the topic in satisfaction. Early the next morning, Wenwen and Fu Yunruo went out to school. Siyu was already fully armed and prepared to send Wenwen to school. Wenwen didn't even want to say anything. She quickly pulled Fu Yunruo into the car. Siyu also drove his own car and followed behind. After arriving at the school gate, he also watched Wenwen enter the school before leaving. It was like this for a few days. Wenwen had an opinion. Why was this person everywhere? What's wrong with that guy? Wenwen's little eyebrows were tightly knitted together. Fu Yunruo looked at the car behind her, which was still quite a distance away. She said hesitantly, he wants to send you to and from school? Although Siyu had been following them, the distance was not close. She felt that it was okay. If she didn't pay special attention, she could pretend that she didn't exist. However, Wenwen was very sensitive. From a distance, she could recognize Siyu's car with a blurry vision. Wenwen said proudly, do I need him to send me? It was unnecessary and a waste of time. Don't think that he would be touched. Fu Yunruo didn't say anything. She had already decided that between the two of them, she wouldn't say anything that needed to be said. Wenwen turned to look at Fu Yunruo. Mom, why aren't you saying anything? Mom, listen to Wenwen. Wenwen frowned. Fu Yunruo couldn't help but touch his eyebrows. You're frowning at such a young age. It's easy for you to age quickly. You'll become a little old man in the future. Wenwen's little hand also touched it. Just as he relaxed, he subconsciously frowned again and said helplessly, I'm too worried. These two people didn't let him be at ease. Fu Yunruo held back her laughter when she saw his serious expression. Little children shouldn't worry so much. Otherwise, you won't grow tall. Height was Wenwen's obsession, especially when he secretly measured his height every week. There was basically no sign of him growing taller. It was worrying. When Wenwen heard this, he immediately stopped talking. What if he really couldn't grow tall because he was thinking too much? Wenwen decided to pretend that he didn't see it, as long as it didn't appear in front of him. The next day, Fu Yunruo woke Wenwen up early in the morning and changed him into a cool and stylish set of clothes. Mom, where are we going? Wenwen's little head shook. Could it be that they were going to the flower garden? To the set, Fu Yunruo said. The director said that there are still some scenes that need to be filmed. Wenwen was suddenly struck by lightning. Going to the set meant seeing Siyu? I'm not going. When Fu Yunruo heard this, her face became serious. Wenwen, do you want to break the contract? Wenwen lowered his head and didn't say anything. He didn't want to face Siyu. We signed a contract with the set. If you say that you don't want to film before you finish filming, it's considered breaking the contract. We have to compensate the set 10 times. Do you want to be a person who doesn't keep his word? Wenwen thought about his high salary. How happy he was at first, but now that he thought about the compensation for breaking the contract, he was very disappointed. He couldn't afford it. Wenwen could only agree agreeably. All right. Chapter 92. Wenwen followed Fu Yun to the set and received a warm welcome once again. The movie was halfway through filming, and many of the supporting actors had already finished filming their scenes. Although there were fewer people in the set, it was still very lively. After Wenwen was surrounded by a circle of people expressing their love and longing for him, Director Immo called him over. There was even a small stool for Wenwen beside him. Director Immo smiled and said, Wenwen, how's school going? Did the teacher praise you? As he was still a child, the adults spoke to him in a childish tone. Wenwen could feel their warmth and kindness, so he patiently answered them one by one. He felt that he was speaking in a serious manner and was controlling his natural cuteness. However, for some reason, when the adults heard him speak, if they could see it, they could see that their little hearts were constantly emerging from their bodies. When Wenwen saw that Siyu was filming, he immediately turned his head and showed his disdain for Siyu. As the favorite of the crew, everyone paid a lot of attention to Wenwen. When they noticed his abnormal attitude towards Siyu, they secretly paid more attention to him. They thought that Siyu must have angered their precious Wenwen. They just wanted to see when Siyu would coax Wenwen. Director Immo naturally noticed Wenwen's mood and lowered his voice to ask, how did Uncle Siyu anger our precious Wenwen? In the past, Wenwen's eyes would always sparkle whenever he saw Siyu and the other veteran actors acting. These old guys liked Wenwen so much because of his cute appearance and his pure passion for acting. They had been in this industry for decades, and it was not easy to find such a good seedling. They couldn't help but want to take good care of him and let him grow up well. They looked forward to the day when he would shine brightly and stand at the top of the world. Wenwen subconsciously puffed up his face and said, no. Wenwen decided not to watch Siyu's acting anymore. She was determined not to learn from him. Director Immo chuckled and said, let Grandpa help you vent your anger. Director Immo suddenly shouted, there are still some problems with the scene just now. Let's do it again. Wenwen. The others were puzzled, but they quickly got into position. Then, they res-hot the scene from before. When Wenwen heard the word cut, she quickly tugged at Director Mo's clothes. His face turned red. Grandpa Mo, you can't do this. They had already finished filming. How could they deliberately cause trouble? Director Immo chuckled and carried Wenwen up to look at the footage that had just been shot. Do you feel better than before? Wenwen actually felt that there wasn't much of a difference between the two times and that it was already considered excellent. If she had to nitpick, the overall effect of the second time was slightly better. After Siyu finished filming, he walked towards them. Wenwen jumped up and ran away. His short legs moved so quickly that they couldn't keep an eye on him even when they shouted. Director Immo saw this and couldn't help but laugh. He teased, even the great best actors see has a day when you're avoided like a snake or scorpion. Siyu smiled nonchalantly. They were outsiders and wouldn't understand. Siyu looked at Wenwen, who had run to Fu Yun's side. The moment the little guy went to Fu Yun's side, he stuck to her and looked up at her with his little mouth. It was obvious that he was complaining. You have to coax him well. Siyu smiled and responded. He didn't go over to look for the mother and son. Instead, he chatted casually with Director Immo. What are your plans for the next drama? Or are you going to take a break again? Everyone in the industry was familiar with Siyu's habits. He filmed 1 or 2 dramas a year and would take a long break after each one. People with looks and ability were willful. No matter how low-key they usually were, they still had top-notch resources. Every time they appeared in public, they would be the most popular one. We'll see. Siyu didn't give a definite answer. However, director Imo saw hope. An old friend of mine has been planning a drama. See if it's to your liking. His old friend had also wanted Siyu to be the male lead. When he found out that Siyu had snatched the role away from him this year and that there was little hope for him to take on a second drama, his old friend had scolded him countless times. Director Imo, you must be joking. The one you recommend will definitely be the best. Siyu smiled and changed the topic. But I'll have to look at the arrangements on my side. Understood. I'll ask my old friend to send the script to you on XIN. You can take a look at it when you have time and think about it before replying. Okay. Director Imo didn't let his old friend down. He instantly heaved a sigh of relief and laughed. Wenwen hugged Fu Yunruo's thigh and acted coquettishly for a while. When she inadvertently turned her head and saw Siyu and Director Imo chatting happily, she sulked. Fu Yunruo naturally saw Wenwen's mood. The little guy really didn't mean what he said. He obviously cared a lot, but he was one-sidedly throwing a tantrum. However, she didn't say anything. Instead, she took out a box of exquisite and cute pastries in the shape of small animals. Sister Xia specially made these for you. Wenwen's eyes were filled with curiosity. It seemed to be quite delicious. Fu Yunruo picked up a piece and brought it to Wenwen's lips. He opened his mouth and swallowed it in one gulp. Is it delicious? Wenwen nodded. It's delicious. Why else would people say that good food was the best way to eliminate a person's troubles? Wenwen was fed for a while and quickly became happy. After that, Wenwen filmed a few more scenes and was fed by the young brothers and sisters in the crew. After a day, her stomach became round. Chapter 93. The filming of this movie had been going very smoothly. Wenwen's scenes had all been filmed today, and the production crew had specially organized a banquet for Wenwen. Many people expressed that they couldn't bear to part with Wenwen. Many of them might not have the chance to work with Wenwen again, so they took the opportunity to give Wenwen many gifts. Fu Yun and Wenwen couldn't refuse even if they wanted to. After a while, they received a lot of gifts that they couldn't even hug. Fu Yun saw that there was basically nothing valuable, mainly homemade snacks and other things, so she didn't insist on rejecting their intentions. Director Imo also couldn't bear to part with this little guy. I have an old friend who is preparing to film a Shinsha movie series. Is Wenwen interested in being the child of the male lead? Although his old friend wanted a 7- or 8-year-old child, wasn't that like him? He was afraid that a 4- or 5-year-old child wouldn't know how to act. Seeing such a clever child like Wenwen, he would definitely be as reluctant to let go as he was. Wenwen looked over curiously, her eyes full of interest. Director, you're not being kind. I also want to film with Wenwen. Recommend me too. Xia Wanning only had a few scenes in this movie as a supporting female lead. This time, she shamelessly came to Wenwen's banquet. As the saying goes, the enemy of one's enemy is one's friend. Xia Wanning had been suppressed by Feng Shui for so long, and once she met Fu Yun and her son, she was unlucky and still couldn't get up. If it weren't for the Chang family, she would have fallen out of the entertainment industry long ago. Moreover, she heard that recently, if the head of the Chang family wasn't very satisfied with Feng Shui, it was uncertain whether that marriage could be maintained. Therefore, Xia Wanning felt that she was lucky to be friends with them. She was now an A-list movie queen and was very familiar with Director Imo. Therefore, when she joked, Director Imo not only didn't get angry, but also laughed and said, "How can I leave you out? At most, I can only recommend you. Whether or not you succeed depends on you." Thank you, Director Imo. Xia Wanning toasted Director Imo. Wenwen listened from the side and her eyes darted around. She remembered that there was a classic Xinxia movie series in this era. At that time, the female lead was Feng Shui. Because of that Xinxia drama, her fame rose to another level. If the female lead was still her, Wenwen blinked and asked curiously, "Is the female lead Sister Xia?" Xia Wanning said happily, "Thank you for your kind words. I won't let baby Wenwen down and try my best to succeed in the audition. L. Experience. A villain takes revenge from dawn to dusk. Xiao Wanning almost couldn't help but hug Wenwen. She's so cute. Why don't I give birth to a baby too? But what if I can't give birth to such a cute baby? What's the audition like? Wenwen asked curiously. Siyu had a chance to interrupt. I'll bring you there to take a look. Wenwen glanced at Siyu, then turned her head away. What did it have to do with him? Siyu, Yuan Xian smiled. I'll bring Wenwen there to take a look. Wenwen immediately turned his head and smiled. His little chubby face trembled. Thank you, Uncle Yuan. Little brat. Director Imo patted Wenwen's head. You have to grow up well. Wenwen said, I'll grow up quickly. He nodded heavily. After the audition, Fu Yun Ruo and Wenwen took the car home. The little guy was happy about something. From time to time, he would laugh like a little mouse who had stolen oil. Fu Yun Ruo asked curiously, What are you laughing about? It's a secret. Of course, Wenwen wouldn't tell her. He finally had a chance to take revenge. He was happy. Fu Yun Ruo tapped his forehead and said sadly, Wenwen, you're hiding secrets from your mother. Wenwen Ruo said seriously, I've grown up and I'm a boy. There are some things that you girls don't understand. I can't tell you in the future. You have to get used to it. Fu Yun Ruo. He's so mischievous. Daughters are the most considerate. Why didn't she give birth to a little jacket? Chapter 94. Since Wenwen was curious about the audition, Yuan Xian decided on the role of the male lead in the Xinxia movie and discussed with the director to let the little guy go to the audition. The director naturally agreed to such a small matter. It was just a child. As long as he did not cause trouble at the audition, it was fine for him to come and take a look. Wenwen was very happy to hear Yuan Xian's words. He had asked around and found out that the female lead had not been decided yet. She had to go through the audition. He just had to think of a way to make her fail the audition. At first, not many people were optimistic about this Xinxia movie, but in the end, it became a dark horse. Compared to the previous sci-fi movie, this Xinxia movie attracted an unexpected audience and successfully created a series. Wenwen did not want Feng Shui to have another chance. Being kind to the enemy was being cruel to oneself. Because of this, Wenwen happily followed Yuan Xian to the audition after getting Fu Yun Ruo's permission. Fu Yun Ruo originally wanted to go with Wenwen, but coincidentally, someone asked her to talk about a collaboration that day. Thus, they met downstairs at the audition office. After the discussion, they went to find Wenwen and went home together. When Wenwen arrived at the audition, he suddenly saw Siyu in the limelight. His happy face immediately fell. Why is he here? He was simply haunting him. Was he the male lead of this movie? That was not right. He remembered that he was a little famous young man. Although he was the male lead, he did not have many scenes. After all, this was a Xinxia movie with a female lead. Siyu raised his eyebrows. I am the investor of this movie. Naturally, I have to come and see how the audition goes. Wenwen was speechless. He did not remember if he had invested in this movie. He did not want to be in the same room as Siyu, but he was afraid that if he was not there, Feng Shui would succeed in the audition. Wenwen was conflicted for a long time. In the end, she sat down on the stool beside Siyu with a dark expression. This small high stool was obviously specially made for him. If he didn't sit here, there would be no place to sit. If he sat on the other chairs, only the back of his head could be seen. Moreover, he was worried that there was something particular about these seats, so he could only obediently sit on the arranged seat. They weren't in the middle, so they weren't the examiners. However, Siyu's presence attracted the attention of the other examiners. Wenwen snorted coldly in his heart. One day, he would be the most popular child wherever he went. Siyu did not know that Wenwen was so ambitious that she wanted to surpass him. He took out 2 candies from his pocket and said, "These are delicious candies. Try them." The colorful candy wrapping the delicate and small candy looked very attractive at first glance. Wenwen turned his head away, disdainful. He was not someone who was so easy to please. Siyu opened one of the candies and put it in his mouth. "If you don't want it, I'll eat it all." Wenwen was even more annoyed. He was already so old, yet he was still eating candies. Shameless. Siyu looked at Wan Win's angry side profile. Her baby fat was even rounder because she was angry. He couldn't help but press on it with his finger. Hiss. It was soft and smooth. It felt great to the touch. Wen turned her head in shock and quickly covered her face. You're teasing me. How dare you poke my face? Wen frowned and said fiercely, We're not friends anymore. Siyu did not know whether to laugh or cry. He wanted to rub her little head, but her peach blossom eyes, which resembled Fu Yun's, stared at him defensively. Siyu regretfully gave up on that idea. What do you mean by teasing? Can you use that word here? Also, when did we sever ties? Why didn't I know about it? We severed ties a long time ago. Wen snorted coldly. Siyu was speechless. The director, who looked like a Maitreya Buddha, chuckled and said, Siyu, it's been so long and you still haven't managed to coax the little kid? There were no secrets in the entertainment industry. The news that Siyu had somehow angered Wan had already spread throughout the industry. Everyone was happy to see Siyu suffer. Siyu shrugged. Little kids are a little hard to coax. When Wan was angry, he had not coaxed her at all. He made it sound as if he had a big temper. Ioyo, look at you. You've angered the little kid. It's even harder to coax her now, the Maitreya Buddha said with a chuckle. No wonder Siyu always liked to tease this little kid. She was so cute when she was angry. It's my fault. Siyu admitted his mistake decisively. However, it seemed like he would do it again. If Wen had not wanted to watch the audition, she would have left long ago. Siyu was so annoying. Before long, the audition room was set up. The director saw that everyone was present and announced the start of the audition. Everyone quieted down instantly. Wen immediately perked up and looked at the slightly ajar door with bright eyes. The audition this time was basically for a few important roles. Otherwise, there would not have been so many people of status participating in the audition. The first audition was for the second female lead. The person auditioning for the role was a very familiar young actress. It was a good start. This young actress' acting skills were not bad. Many of the examiners secretly nodded their heads. Wen thought to herself that the audition from 20 years ago was no different from 20 years later. Chapter 95. Although Shinsha movies were unpopular, there were internal rumors that CU and Apple Entertainment had invested heavily in and supported the production team. Therefore, regardless of whether the celebrity agents were optimistic about the theme or not, those who had connections wanted to audition. Even if the movie failed, it would be great if they could get to know that person. Therefore, even if it was a supporting role, there were many B-list and male stars vying for the role. Other than those who couldn't leave due to their busy schedules, basically everyone else was gathered here. Fortunately, the director and producer only personally auditioned for the important roles. The rest were filled by the assistant director or investors. The director's time was precious. Everyone only had 5 minutes for the audition. The fifth person to audition for the supporting female lead was Jiang Jiang. It wasn't easy for the company and her agent to get her this audition. They wanted her to make a transition to the big screen. If she could get into a big production, she would be able to break through the bottleneck and jump to the top. Therefore, she took this opportunity very seriously. A week before the audition, she even canceled all activities to hone her acting skills. This audition was a live audition. The roles were only revealed 10 minutes before the audition. After they received their number, they were given the script. Those whose numbers were in front didn't have much time to prepare for the role. Jiang Jiang's number was in the middle, so she was lucky. When Wen saw Jiang Jiang, he immediately sat up straight. Compared to Feng Shui's sister, Stao Wanning, who had never made a comeback in her previous life, Jiang Jiang was almost better than Feng Shui, even though Feng Shui was half retired after she married Feng Shui and had children. Later, when Jiang Jiang was at the peak of her popularity, she got married and retired. Although she wasn't as famous as before, she lived a good life with her husband. However, she was unlucky in her middle age when her husband's company went bankrupt. Wen knew her because she had helped him. Although it was just a matter of a few words to him, it was one of the few acts of kindness he had received. Wen didn't know that she had auditioned for this movie. He looked at teacher Jiang Jiang with sparkling eyes. Her acting was not as good as it would be 20 years later, but she still had the liveliness and spirit of her youth. Even without a filter, he felt that she was the one who was the most suitable for the role among all the people he had seen. Siyu noticed Wenwen's unusual attitude and asked, "Do you think she acted well?" When Wenwen heard Siyu's voice, he instinctively wanted to give him a slap on the back of his head. However, when he thought about how teacher Jiang Jiang had not appeared in the film, it must have been because she had not been selected for the role, so Wenwen hesitated for a moment before deciding to help him. However, he knew that he was just a kid. It was one thing to be liked by others, but if he really wanted to change the adults' minds, he would need someone with authority to speak up for him. Therefore, with a serious face, Wenwen nodded and said, "You acted very well." Siyu was surprised and couldn't help but take a closer look. What kind of charm did this woman have that made Wenwen talk to him for the first time? What's so good about her? Wenwen looked at him with disdain. "You're making things difficult for me. I'm still a kid." He remembered his character. He could be smart, but if he was too smart, he would be close to a demon. Siyu was speechless. This little brat was getting less and less cute as he got older. The directors were also very satisfied with Jiang Jiang's audition. Seeing that no one else had any objections, they made a check mark and told her to return to the canal and wait for further notice. When one saw that Siyu didn't even need to say anything. The directors had already teased teacher Jiang Jiang, so he felt that he had wasted his time talking to Siyu. However, on second thought, even if the audition was confirmed, it was common for actors to be replaced at the last minute. He had encountered this many times. Perhaps someone had wanted to insert someone else into the cast and replaced her? Thus, he asked worriedly, "Will I be able to see Jiang Jiang, Sister Jiang Jiang on set?" Siyu rubbed Wenwen's head and smiled without saying a word. Wenwen immediately hugged his head and refused. Siyu was worried that a child like him wouldn't be able to sit still for too long. He asked in a low voice, "Do you want to go find your mother?" Siyu felt that the audition was quite boring. Although he was the biggest producer, there was no need for him to sit here. He mainly wanted to accompany the little brat and was worried that he would feel uncomfortable in an unfamiliar environment. He felt that the little brat's enthusiasm should have cooled down after 3 minutes. He might as well take Roro out for a Western meal and walk around while he had the time. "No, I still want to watch." The main event hadn't started yet. How could he leave so early? Wenwen thought about it and understood why he wanted to leave. He immediately warned him in a low voice, "You're not allowed to leave either. You can't take the opportunity to find my mother alone." Siyu was speechless. Why didn't this little brat just give up? After the audition for the second female lead and third male lead, the main event began. The audition for the female lead was about to begin. 5 minutes later, the audition for the female lead officially began. The audition room was filled with whispers, and the director was grinning from ear to ear. Although not all of these people had come for him, the crew was the beneficiary and could only be happy. 5 minutes later, the audition for the female lead was about to begin. When one was excited and looked at the door with bright eyes. Chapter 96. The audition room was relatively quiet, but the waiting area outside the hall was bustling with noise and excitement. Xia Wanning was originally sitting in a corner with her agent, waiting for the audition notice. However, in the end, her nemesis actually came as well. She was a little surprised. If she remembered correctly, wasn't Feng Shui still on set? She actually had time to come? When the others saw Xia Wanning, who was at the peak of his fame, they already felt that they had no hope. They didn't expect Feng Shui to come as well. Although she had been suppressed recently, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. The others were also on high alert. Feng Shui greeted Xia Wanning naturally and generously, as if they were good sisters. If Xia Wanning made a fuss about it, she would appear petty. Xia Wanning smiled and said, "You also received the audition notice? Congratulations, but I won't go easy on you later." Feng Shui smiled sweetly. "Let's wait and see. I'll do my best." Then she frowned and said, "I heard that Siyu is one of the judges. He and my sister are friends." She seemed to realize that she had misspoken and hurriedly changed the topic. Xia Wanning said bluntly, "Look at what you're saying. You make it sound like Brother Yu will use his power to take revenge. Is Brother Yu that kind of person in your mind?" Xia Wanning used to think that Feng Shui was like a high and mighty goddess, pure and cold. Perhaps in the past, she was indeed favored by the heavens and loved by everyone. But now, after removing this layer of facade, she was nothing more than a sparrow who wanted to become a phoenix. Feng Shuerhua knew that the people on Cuyu's side didn't like her, but she still kept jumping out. If it was her, she would have thought of ways to avoid those people who wanted to ban her. Was she tired of living? Did she think that her acting skills were good enough for Ciyu to overlook his prejudice and choose her? Or was it more to her liking that she wasn't chosen? She could pretend to be a victim while Ciyu used his fame to take revenge? If that was the case, it would be too disgusting. Xiao Wanning had originally wanted to mock her until she was too ashamed to continue waiting for the audition, so that Ciyu wouldn't feel bad seeing her. However, no matter what she said, Feng Shuerhua had an attitude of accepting everything. She was only short of pointing at her nose and mocking her. The more she said, the more the people around her looked at her with a strange attitude. Xiao Wanning reacted and immediately shut her mouth. Her expression was a little ugly. She looked like a villain who had succeeded. The waiting room was very quiet. Soon, it was time for the female lead's audition. The two of them had indeed been rivals for many years. The audition took place one after the other, with Xiao Wanning taking the lead. The audition scenes that the crew gave to the actresses who came for the audition were all the same. There was only a brief description of the scene, and it was up to the actresses to interpret it. Xiao Wanning's acting skills were very good. She portrayed the heroine's change from being innocent to being betrayed by her close friend. The examiners were very satisfied with her performance. Among the 5 or 6 actresses in the audition, she was the one who acted the best. However, Xiao Wanning's flamboyant and bright appearance didn't fit the role of the female lead. This was a point that the directors considered, but this could be made up for with makeup. If there wasn't anyone more outstanding, then she would be chosen. Xiao Wanning could feel that the directors were satisfied with her. Although they didn't make a decision on the spot, she felt that with Ciyu and Wenwen around, her chances of getting the role were very high. Thus, she walked out in a good mood. Although Wenwen was more familiar with Xiao Wanning and Sister Xia usually took care of her, to be fair, her character didn't match the character set in the script. If she didn't do well, it would be easy for her to fall out of character. No matter how selfish Wenwen was, she couldn't say that she should replace Feng Shui as the female lead. The next person to enter was Feng Shui. The moment she entered, the director's eyes lit up. Her innocent and harmless temperament was very much like the early stages of the female lead they were looking for. If Feng Shui could become the best actress, besides having a good background, she also had acting skills. Although she was slightly inferior to Xiao Wanning, her appearance and temperament were very suitable, which was enough to add points. When Wenwen saw Feng Shui, she looked as if she was facing a formidable enemy. When she saw that the director and the others couldn't control their joy, she was obviously very satisfied with Feng Shui. Wenwen said innocently, "Sister, aren't you the female lead in a big production? Can you be 2 female leads at the same time?" Her eyes expressed some confusion appropriately. Feng Shui's expression didn't change. Instead, her smile deepened, as if she was very happy that Wenwen was paying attention to her. "Thus," she said, "the production team is almost done with filming. If you have the honor, you can come to the production team." Wenwen blinked and tilted her head in confusion. Filming a TV series takes less time than filming a movie. Their last film production team took 2 months to complete filming, but that was because it was a movie. The duration couldn't be compared to a TV series, and it was also a sci-fi film. The focus was on the special effects at the end. Feng Shui's production team started filming later than theirs. If it was a Xinxia drama, it would take at least 4 to 5 months, right? She had almost finished filming the female lead in a month. When the director heard their conversation, his excitement instantly cooled down. As a director, he hated it when important actors and actresses were competing for roles. Now that he had regained his rationality, he suddenly realized that Feng Shui wasn't a good choice. He wasn't blind. The news of Feng Shui being the female lead in a Xinxia drama had been hyped up for a few days. It would take at least 3 to 4 months to complete filming. There was no way she could catch up with their production team. Although they were still in the midst of casting, everything else was ready. All they needed was the actors and actresses. With big investments like CU and Apple Entertainment, they didn't have to worry about anything. Most importantly, Feng Shui's reputation wasn't very good. Furthermore, she was almost blacklisted. Furthermore, the person who blacklisted her was the producer, a major investor of the production team. The director turned his head to the side and met Siyu's deep eyes that seemed to be smiling yet not smiling. He suddenly quivered and straightened his back. How depressed was he to have the idea of marrying her? The director coughed softly with an unfathomable look on his face. After the assistant director finished discussing with the others, he said calmly, "We'll inform you of the results in 3 days." The assistant director saw the director's indifferent attitude and hurriedly tried to smooth things over. He said warmly, "You acted very well. We will consider it carefully." Feng Shui thanked him gently and glanced at Siyu before she left. Siyu, on the other hand, kept looking at the child beside her. It was as if she didn't notice. Feng Shui lowered her eyes and left with a smile. After that, other people came to audition for the female lead. However, with Xia Wanning and Feng Shui around, the others paled in comparison. The casting process also started between the two of them. Wenwen's little eyes kept glancing at the people who were discussing intensely. The assistant director was very satisfied with Feng Shui. When he saw that the others were siding with Xia Wanning, he became very excited. He almost pointed at their noses and said that they had been bribed. Wenwen couldn't help but move her little butt and listen to their heated discussion. Siyu thought that Wenwen couldn't sit still anymore, so he picked up the chubby boy with one hand and carried him in his arms. "Don't you want to stay here anymore? Let's go out then." Wenwen, who had suddenly jumped into the air and instinctively hugged Siyu's arm in fear of falling, was confused. He was listening to the crucial part of the conversation. How could he leave? Siyu had already opened the door and walked out. He said, "Don't worry. I won't let the person you hate appear in front of you." Wenwen, who had wanted to break free, immediately quieted down. How could he forget that Siyu had always hated Feng Shui? He definitely wouldn't let her come to his set. Wenwen said awkwardly, "Put me down. I can walk by myself." Siyu looked down at Wenwen and put her down. As soon as Wenwen's feet touched the ground, she immediately ran out. However, as soon as she turned the corner, she bumped into someone who was walking towards her. A delicate voice rang out. Before Wenwen could react, the person he bumped into fell to the ground with a cry of surprise. Wenwen reacted quickly. She took 2 steps back and squatted on the ground. She looked at the person in front of her with an aggrieved expression on her chubby face and tears in her dark eyes. Before the other party could say anything, Wenwen looked timid and said in a sobbing tone, "Why are you blocking my way?" Wenwen thought to himself that he was a professional at following other people's paths and leaving them with no way out. Feng Shui, who was sitting on the ground with tears in her eyes and a pained expression on her face, was speechless. Siyu bent down and helped Wenwen up. He asked with concern, "Are you hurt anywhere? Does it hurt?" Wenwen glanced timidly in a certain direction and said meekly, "My butt hurts." "Yeah, I fell down just now." Siyu placed his large hand on her butt and rubbed it. It was bouncy and soft, so he couldn't help but rub it a few more times. Siyu said righteously, "It won't hurt anymore if I rub it more." Wenwen was speechless. The big jerk took advantage of her. She had proof. Chapter 97. Don't pinch my butt. Wenwen's face turned red as she covered her, but with her hands to protect her chastity. Siyu said righteously, "Nonsense. I'm just rubbing your butt to relieve the pain." Wenwen said, "It doesn't hurt anymore. It doesn't hurt anymore." Siyu saw that Wenwen was about to explode. He was afraid that he would provoke her further, so he stopped. Siyu carried Wenwen and spoke as if there was no one else around. He walked over a pile of rubble on the ground and headed for the elevator. Feng Shui saw this and hurriedly stood up and chased after him. "Siyu, wait, I have something to say to you." Siyu turned a deaf ear to her and only stopped when she was right in front of him. Siyu frowned as a look of displeasure flashed across his eyes. He thought that he had already made his stance clear, but there were always people who were self-centered and annoying. Should he stop probing and nibbling away at her and speed up? Feng Shuirua didn't have the slightest awareness that she was being disliked. She tucked her hair behind her ear, revealing her fair and elegant face. She raised her head. Her pair of watery eyes were misty. Her fragile neck was exposed to the air, as if it would be snapped by someone with a pinch. When one looked as if he was facing a formidable enemy. His entire body tensed up as he glared at Feng Shui unkindly. He could tell that this woman was trying to seduce Siyu. When one was furious, he could tell that Feng Shui was addicted to stealing her mother's man. It was fine that she stole her mother's fiancé because he was a scumbag. They were a match made in heaven. She had let go of her mother, but now she was trying to steal her away. Men instinctively wanted to protect and possess women who looked weak and harmless, innocent and beautiful. Would Siyu be seduced by her? When one turned around aggressively and met Siyu's gaze, he could see the eagerness in his eyes. Siyu looked at Wen's trembling side profile and his fingers started to move. He really wanted to pinch and poke. Although the little guy was sometimes very infuriating, he was adorable from head to toe. When immediately became vigilant and subconsciously covered her face. When he saw Siyu's expression, he felt as though his face was about to be trampled on again. He was too familiar with this expression. Every time Siyu showed this expression, his handsome face would suffer. When warned, "Don't pinch." What if she pinched his handsome face too much and made it unattractive? Siyu looked at him innocently. "You've wronged me." He was just thinking about it. He hadn't done anything yet. When he men, who would believe his nonsense? Feng Shui, who had been ignored once again, was speechless. She winked at the blind man. "Siyu." Feng Shui was indignant and called out again. Siyu finally got to play with his son. His son had forgotten to throw a tantrum with him. He was even more annoyed that he was being disturbed again. "What are you trying to say?" Siyu's gaze was indifferent. "What do I have to do for you to let me go? I really like acting. Are you really going to listen to my sister's orders and kill me?" Feng Shui's eyes were as clear as water as she looked at Siyu. Her gaze was weak but stubborn. When one immediately came over with an unfriendly look, Siyu said, "You must have misunderstood something. Ruoruo doesn't work in the entertainment industry and doesn't pay attention to your affairs. She doesn't know anything. I'm a good citizen. Why would I kill someone? Furthermore, I'm just a mediocre best actor with no background. How would I have the ability to kill the daughter of the Fu family and the fiancé of the Chang family's eldest young master? Aren't you the ones who kill people?" It was just that those without a background had disappeared without a trace, while those with a background couldn't do anything about it. They could only watch as others continued to shine on the stage. Siyu hadn't been calculative with Feng Shui in the past, but that didn't mean that he didn't know what she had done in the past. Many people had ended up badly because they didn't get along with her. What he was doing now was just paying back 1% of what she had done to others in the past. At least he hadn't hurt anyone physically or mentally. Feng Shui bit her lower lip. "Did you hear something from someone that made you misunderstand me? I've never done anything to hurt anyone. It's none of my business whether you've done it or not. I don't care. I thought that you would at least know your place. Now it seems that I overestimated you. You know that I hate you, yet you keep trying to make your presence known in front of me. Do you think that seducing a man who hates you, especially your sister's man, makes you want to conquer him?" These words were no different from trampling on Feng Shuiruo's face to the ground and exposing Feng Shuiruo's inner secrets under the sun. Her face turned green and white in an instant. She was indignant at being misunderstood. "I didn't." She seemed to have suffered a blow, and her body was on the verge of collapsing. Siyu didn't even look at her as he walked past her. He walked to the elevator and pressed the button. "Siyu?" Feng Shui wanted to chase after him, but someone walked out from the corner. When they saw Feng Shui, they whispered to their friends, "It's Feng Shuiruo." Feng Shui stopped in her tracks and looked at Siyu's back with a bitter smile. Then she inadvertently turned her head and tried to control her expression. However, the two people she saw didn't excitedly ask her for autographs or ask her why she was upset. Instead, they walked past her and looked at Siyu's back with bright eyes. "It's Siyu and Wenwan. Are we going to ask for their autographs?" The girl whose face was red from excitement elbowed her friend. Her friend was tempted, but in the end, she hesitated and didn't go forward. There will be a chance in the future. They were staff members of the production team who were here to help with the audition. They would have a chance to see them in the future, so they weren't in a hurry to disturb them. Feng Shui was speechless. She almost broke her teeth from gritting them. Damn it. The elevator arrived quickly. When the doors opened, Siyu walked in with Wan in his arms and pressed the button for the first floor. When the elevator doors closed, Wan frowned and said sternly, "You're not Mommy's man." Wan didn't refute immediately because they were united against an external enemy. Now that they were facing an internal enemy, Wan immediately exposed her. Siyu patted her chubby but said gently, "Whatever you say." When Wan was speechless. She didn't know why she was still angry. "Put me down. Put me down." When Wan began to struggle again, Siyu put the child down and said, "When you see Mommy later, don't tell her about this, okay?" Wan snorted. He knew even if she didn't tell him, he wouldn't let Mommy worry about this. When the two of them walked out of the elevator, Wan looked around. "Do you know where Mommy is?" Siyu waved his phone. "Your mommy told me." Wan stared at him. "Why would Mommy care about you?" Mommy had promised not to contact Siyu. Could she have contacted him behind his back again? Siyu smiled but didn't say anything. He looked down at the angry child and thought to himself, "That's because I have a hostage in my hands." Siyu walked out of the elevator with Wan. The two of them wore the same hat and pulled down the brim. If one didn't look closely, one wouldn't be able to see their faces clearly. Siyu even put on a pair of sunglasses and walked out of the glass door quietly. At this moment, Fu Yun was also in trouble. She had arranged to meet her business partner at a cafe downstairs. They had a pleasant discussion and had a cup of coffee while they were there. However, not long after, an annoying person came out and ruined her good mood. Chang Zhuyu wasn't having a good time either. His family's investment had failed, and they had lost a large sum of money. Fortunately, they had a strong family background and managed to fill the hole and get through this crisis smoothly. However, the Chang family had also suffered a blow. The Chang family had been doing well for so many years, but this was the first time they had encountered such trouble. He couldn't help but spend a lot of energy on his work. When he looked back, he realized that the woman he cherished had suffered a lot. And all these grievances were caused by Fu Yun Ruo, this vicious woman. Chang Zhuyu asked his subordinates to find out Fu Yun Ruo's whereabouts. He came over aggressively and was ready to settle the score with her. "Fu Yun Ruo, you vicious woman." When Chang Zhuyu saw Fu Yun Ruo chatting happily with a young man, he was even more disdainful of Fu Yun Ruo. This woman was really fickle. Not only did she seduce a man, she even had an ambiguous relationship with another man. These men were simply blind. It was as if they had never seen a woman before. They even took a fancy to a woman like Fu Yun Ruo. When Fu Yun Ruo saw Chang Zhuyu, she immediately rolled her eyes. These people were really persistent. They came one after another. They were like flies that couldn't be killed. They were so annoying. Fu Yun Ruo saw Chang Zhuyu's ferocious expression. He looked like he was about to hit someone. To be honest, she was quite afraid that he wouldn't care about his manners and hit her. How could Fu Yun Ruo let him get close to her? When he was still 3 steps away from her, she immediately splashed the unfinished coffee on his face. "You." Before Chang Zhuyu could finish his sentence, the black coffee splashed on his face. He instinctively closed his eyes and his face became sticky. "Fu Yun Ruo." Chang Zhuyu gritted his teeth. Fu Yun Ruo blinked and said, "Your expression is too scary. I was afraid that you would hit me, so I splashed it subconsciously." As she said that, she even shrunk her shoulders and looked very scared. The person who was talking to Fu Yun Ruo was called Tan Minchi. He was the young master of the Tan family. He had been working with Fu Yun Ruo for a few years. This meeting was to discuss the renewal of the contract. Originally, he didn't need to appear. However, he had known Fu Yun Ruo for a long time, and they were partners for many years. He could use this opportunity to meet with Fu Yun Ruo. Tan Minchi stood in front of Fu Yun Ruo and smiled politely. "Mr. Chang, please don't come so close to us. You are making us feel threatened by violence." When Tan Minchi saw Chang Zhuyu's irritable look, he started to doubt his previous judgment. Although they were not in the same circle, they still had some interactions. He used to have a good impression of Chang Zhuyu, but looking at him now, he was totally ungentlemanly. It was as if he had bipolar disorder. He was so irritable that he looked like he was going to hit someone at any time. Tan Minchi stood beside Fu Yunruo and expressed his understanding of why she splashed the coffee. Changzhu, you did look scary just now. It was normal for girls to be afraid. Tan Minchi said tactfully, Mr. Chong, do you need to tidy up your appearance first? Chang Zhuyu wiped his face. Even his hands were sticky and uncomfortable. He looked at the cafe again. There were already people looking at him. Chang Zhuyu didn't want to be surrounded by people. He glared fiercely at Fu Yunruo behind Tan Minchi and turned to leave. Tan Minchi said, I don't think he will let this go. You should leave first. Fu Yunruo shook her head. It's okay. He can't do anything. He was just a paper tiger who was bluffing. Fu Yunruo was not afraid at all. Thank you for just now, Fu Yunruo said gratefully. Then she said, if you have something to do, you can leave first. The Tan family's background was not as good as the Chong family's. It was not worth it to offend the Chong family for her. Fu Yunruo did not want the Tan family to be destroyed by Wang Tianliang because of her. With the Chong family's usual methods, this was very likely. Because of the male lead's halo, offending the Chong family did not end well. Fu Yunruo naturally did not want her friend to end up like this. Don't worry. I will call Shengnan in. It will be fine. Fu Yunruo called Shengnan in front of Tan Minchi. She did not want more people to be involved in her troublesome matter. Fu Yunruo deeply felt that she had to do something to stop them from jumping around in front of her. Unfortunately, the connections she had accumulated over the years were just an ant trying to shake a tree in front of the Chong family. Just thinking about it made her feel vexed. Tan Minchi originally wanted to protect Fu Yunruo, but under Fu Yunruo's insistence, he could only leave. Then be careful. Tan Minchi could also tell that Fu Yunruo did not want others to interfere in her matters. Tan Minchi saw Qian Shengnan come in and left. He knew that Qian Shengnan was Fu Yunruo's bodyguard and assistant, so he was quite assured. Fu Yunruo wondered if they were going to change positions. Later on, she thought that if she retreated, wouldn't it appear that she was afraid of him? Moreover, she had already arranged to meet Siyu here. She should be coming over soon. Chang Zhuyu had been so embarrassed just now. He probably would not come over, right? With this thought in mind, Fu Yunruo sat down calmly and even ordered some snacks and drinks for herself and Qian Shengnan. In the end, she still made a mistake. Chang Zhuyu had gone somewhere to change into a clean set of clothes and walked over pretentiously. However, this time, the irritation on his face was much less. Only his eyes revealed his undisguised disgust. Chang Zhuyu sat opposite Fu Yunruo and threatened her with words. Fu Yunruo, no matter what you do, I will not like you. If you continue to target Shuiruo, don't blame me for being rude to you. Ahem. Fu Yunruo did not even think that the dessert was delicious when she heard this. Instead, she felt like there was a fishbone stuck in her throat. Fu Yunruo and Qian Shengnan looked at Chang Zhuyu with strange expressions. How did I give you the wrong impression that I... Fu Yunruo could not say it out loud. How could this person be so shameless? He actually thought that she liked him? Even if she liked Siyu, she would not like him. At the thought of Siyu, Fu Yunruo's face froze. She quickly threw this scary thought out of her mind. Chang Zhuyu, on the other hand, was looking at her expression. I only have Shui'er in my heart. I wish the two of you a blissful marriage. Chang Zhuyu choked and continued. The only person I have ever loved is Shui'er. Even if the two of you love each other, you are a match made in heaven. Fu Yunruo was as sincere as she could be. No matter how much you do for me, I will only hate you more. Shui'er is so gentle and kind. Can't you be more forgiving? Why must you hurt an innocent person? Fu Yunruo was speechless. Hello, Mr. Chong. Are you there? Can you hear me? Chang Zhuyu's tone was warning. Fu Yunruo smiled. So you can hear me. Can you listen to me for a while? Chang Zhuyu's face turned pale. Speak. Fu Yunruo's tone was sincere and her attitude was sincere. I have already let it go because I realized that we are not from the same world. It was really hurtful and heartbreaking for me to barge into your world. I have already accepted reality. You and Feng Shui are a match made in heaven. The two of you are from the same world. Whoever wants to separate the two of you should be struck by lightning and die a horrible death. I sincerely wish that the two of you will be together forever and never be separated. Fu Yunruo was extremely sincere. She did not want to have any entanglements with these people. The people from their country had a suffocating IQ and EQ. They were self-centered and only knew how to talk to themselves. Fu Yunruo, who had been stamped as a fan, was simply disgusted. If it were not for the fact that most of her friends and family were in the capital, she would never have stepped into the capital. Chang Zhuyo's expression softened. It's good that you have this awareness. As long as you apologize to Shuer properly, this matter will be over. I won't pursue the matter further. Also, tell your fans not to harm Shuer maliciously. You two are good sisters, Chang Zhuyu said with a magnanimous look on his face. Fu Yunruo's expression immediately changed. She chuckled and pointed outside the glass window. Look at the sky outside. Chang Zhuyu turned his head to look. The sun was high in the sky, and it was bright and scorching. However, the indoor air conditioning was good and the sunlight shone in, making people feel comfortable. He frowned and said, "What's wrong with the sky outside? It's still bright outside. Isn't it bad for you to start dreaming so early?" Chang Zhuyu realized what she meant, and his expression changed. "What did you say?" Fu Yunruo tilted her head and said sympathetically, "As expected, I can't have high hopes for your IQ. What I mean is, my fans didn't do anything overboard to your Shuer. Don't overthink it. Besides, I didn't do anything wrong to her. We were never good sisters, so don't overthink it." If Fuya knew that her fans were using their own methods to boycott Feng Shuerua in order to help her vent her anger, even if her fans didn't tell her about it, Tian knew about it and mentioned it to her. Fu Yunruo was not a saint. Even though she knew that her fans were standing up for her, she still pretended to ask them not to do so. It made them feel like they were in a difficult position. Compared to hurting the people who liked her, she would rather them hurt the people she hated. Moreover, they did not do anything overboard to her. They were just teaching her a lesson. Thinking about it from another perspective, if the idol she liked was a rival of another celebrity, and she had the ability to do so, she would naturally not give her family's resources to her idol's rival. She had heard that Feng Shuerua had been blacklisted in the industry, but her fans had only blocked the resources within their own network. It could only be said that her fans were too powerful and had so many connections in the entertainment industry. She was not in the entertainment industry, but seeing that Feng Shuerua still had shows to film, she did not think that the ban would be too severe, so she would not say anything. Chang Zhuyu did not think so. He only felt that Fu Yunruo did not know what was good for her. He was about to warn her when Fu Yunruo said, "Mr. Chang, I still have something to do. Take care." She directly sent him off. Fu Yunruo, if you don't want anything to happen to your garden, then be sensible. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Chang Zhuyu thought of Feng Shuerua's grievances and felt that Fu Yunruo was even more disgusting. He thought that she had changed after so many years, but he did not expect her to be even more vicious than before. Since that was the case, she could not blame him for being cruel. "How do you want to be rude?" A faint voice sounded. Fu Yunruo turned her head and her eyes lit up. "See, you brought Wenwan to the second floor of the cafe." When they walked to a corner, they heard Chang Zhuyo's threatening words. Siyu Ruo walked over unhurriedly. His tall figure was extremely oppressive. "Siyu." Chang Zhuyu Ruo's expression changed when he saw Siyu. When Ruo saw the person she hated and quickly ran over. She stuck close to Fu Yun Ruo and asked nervously, "Mom, did he bully you? Are you okay?" When Ruo gave Chang Zhuyu a warning look. He felt that the two of them were crazy. One of them came to seduce Siyu Ruo, while the other was trying to make his presence known in front of his mother. Did he want to seduce his mother too? When Ruo looked nervous. He was afraid that his mother would be deceived by the scumbag. If Chang Zhuyu Ruo was his stepfather, he would rather have Siyu as his biological father. Chang Zhuyu Ruo's expression turned even uglier when he saw the chubby boy. Even though he did not like Fu Yun Ruo, she was still his ex-fiancée. However, she actually had a child with an unknown man. He could not accept this and subconsciously ignored it. Now that he saw the child, he immediately recalled the feeling of being cheated on. Fu Yun Ruo saw Wenwen run over to her and put him on her lap. She smiled and said, "Wenwen, Did you have fun? In Fuyin Ruo's opinion, Wenwen went to the audition just to have fun. Did you cause trouble for others? The little boy was very heavy. Fuyin Ruo did not want to discuss Chang Zhuyu in front of Wenwen, so she deliberately changed the topic. Wenwen protested, I was not having fun. I was very obedient and did not cause trouble for others. Okay. Fuyin Ruo moved a plate of untouched, exquisite desserts in front of Wenwen. Our baby is the most obedient. Wenwen said happily, of course. He was the most obedient. The mother and son were happy and harmonious. On the other side, Siyu and Chang Zhuyu looked at each other. Sparks flew in the air. Siyu was the first to look away. He sat on another empty seat and said with a smile, Wenwen is very obedient. Everyone likes him. Wenwen was so proud that he raised his nose. Fuyin Ruo smiled and said, Yes, this is a reward for Wenwen. You can have 2 pieces of desserts. Wenwen said coquettishly, I want mommy to feed me. Okay. Siyu glanced at Wenwen in disdain. He was a man. How could he speak so coquettishly and be so sweet? But the corners of her lips could not help but curl up into a smile. Fuyin Ruo fed Wenwen some desserts. Wenwen was so happy that his little legs swayed. He was even sweeter. These are specially ordered for you, Fuyin Ruo said to Siyu. Siyu had confirmed the location with Fuyin Ruo previously. She knew that they were coming to find her, so she specially ordered more desserts. Siyu looked at the desserts and sealed drinks. He smiled and said, Thank you. You're welcome. The atmosphere here was happy and harmonious. Chang Zhuyu seemed out of place. It was as if he did not exist. You guys. Chang Zhuyu's words attracted a few pairs of eyes. Siyu looked surprised. Why are you still here? Chang Zhuyu. Siyu asked, Are you here to pick up your fiancé? Chang Zhuyu was stunned. Siyu pointed at the building opposite them. Your fiancé was unlucky. She fell while walking. You guys are indeed telepathic. You came specially to pick her up. When Chang Zhuyu heard this, he did not care about anything else. He hurried out to look for Feng Shui Ruo. After Chang Zhuyu left, Fuyin Ruo immediately felt the air freshen up. She felt relaxed. She heaved an exaggerated sigh of relief. He's finally gone. Wenwen said sternly, Mommy, if these people come to bother you again, let me know. I will help you chase them away. Fuyin Ruo rubbed his smooth face and said happily, Okay, Mommy will depend on Wenwen to protect her. At this moment, a waiter in a suit came over and said respectfully, Mr. C, Ms. Fu, there are reporters gathered outside. It seems that news of you being here has been leaked. Fuyin Ruo and Siyu looked at each other. Siyu said, Let's go. Fuyin Ruo nodded. Wenwen jumped down from Fuyin Ruo's lap. Fuyin Ruo stood up and felt that her legs were a little numb. She stood for a while before she felt better. This cafe was frequented by celebrities, so they were very familiar with dealing with unexpected situations. They did not stay for long before they left quietly through the side door. After they were safe from the reporters, Fuyin Ruo said goodbye to Siyu. Thank you for taking care of Wenwen. We still have something to do, so we'll take our leave first. Fuyin Ruo thought that it was still early and she could bring Wenwen out for a walk. They could have a big meal at night before going home. They had not gone out to eat good food together for a long time. However, Siyu did not play by the rules. He raised his eyebrows and sighed. I feel that I've been thrown away after being used up. Fuyin Ruo. It's not that she didn't. When Ruo said arrogantly, We're going to do our own things, he was not embarrassed at all. Siyu looked at Wenwen from the corner of his eyes. This rascal was not cute again. Siyu looked at Fuyin Ruo. His acting skills were off the charts at this moment. His eyes were disappointed and pitiful. Fuyin Ruo could not bear to see him like this. She felt that she was too heartless to abandon him and almost agreed to come with him. However, she lowered her head and looked at Wenwen Ruo, who was like a fighting rooster. She said with difficulty, I'll listen to Wenwen. Okay, let's leave it to this father and son pair. Wenwen Ruo was proud of himself. His mother would listen to him. Siyu squatted down. Wenwen, can you bring me along? I can be the coolie. I can carry you when you're tired. He looked at Wenwen Ruo's chubby body, and the meaning in his eyes was obvious. Did he not know his own weight? Did he want his mother to carry him when he was tired? When Ruo was furious. He was looking down on his body. This was all baby fat. He was not fat. Okay, you can be the coolie. He wanted Siyu to carry him the whole time. He wanted him to die of exhaustion. How dare he despise him for being fat? Fu Yun Ruo. She held her forehead weakly and did not know where to start. As they were all public figures, they did not go to crowded places to play. It was Siyu who brought them to more secluded and fun places. When Ruo sat on Siyu's arm and hugged a toy gun that increased his weight, he ordered Siyu to walk around nonstop and look at this and that. Well, she felt that something was not right, but she could not figure it out at the moment. Forget it. Who cares? Let's torment Siyu first before thinking about it. Fu Yun Ruo looked at the two of them from behind and thought that one would definitely explode when he realized what had happened. Forget it. Anyway, he had agreed to it himself. She would just appease him and let this matter pass. When tormented Siyu, who was willing to work hard without complaint. He was also very tired. When he went back at night, he could not even open his eyes. He was half asleep when he took a shower and asked Fu Yun Ruo to help him take a shower. The next day, when he woke up energized, when Ruo realized what had happened the day before and immediately exploded. He had actually fallen into Siyu's trap so easily. Siyu was paying attention to him again. When Ruo went downstairs angrily. When he saw Fu Yun Ruo, he said unhappily, "Mom, you didn't even remind me yesterday." Fu Yun Ruo casually apologized. Well, it's Mom's fault. She saw that when Ruo was having a good time. However, she could not say this out loud. Otherwise, she would explode even more. After being comforted by Fu Yun Ruo for a while, when Ruo sat at the dining table awkwardly. All right, he forgave his mother. Next time, he would definitely not bother with Siyu again. The Xinsha film crew quickly decided on the cast. The female lead that when Ruo was most concerned about was not Feng Shui Ruo or Xiao Wanning, but an unknown newcomer. He heard that she was very clever, so the director and investors were very satisfied. After when Ruo confirmed that there would not be any changes, he stopped paying attention to her. The new film crew had not started yet, so his life returned to normal. He went to kindergarten obediently every day. When Ruo began to miss his peaceful life, he knew that after the sci-fi film was broadcast, he would officially be a child star. When that time came, no matter where he was, his life would not be so peaceful anymore. As he thought of this, he looked at Kong Kong and the others with a tolerant gaze. Yes, he had to cherish these children. Time spun, and soon, it was time for the kindergarten's final exams. During this period, when Ruo studied hard and did not dare to put his thoughts on other things. Even if he had an extra life's memory, he could not stand at the top of the IQ pyramid and look down on these kindergarten children. If he was not careful, he would be surpassed. Children nowadays were too amazing. There was one exam where he actually scored 99 points and had a mark deducted. Many children in the class had scored 200 points and did not get the little red flower reward. To one Ruo, it was a dark history. He did not dare to be careless anymore. Every time he took an exam, he would pay 120% attention, afraid that he would not get 200 points. It was really too difficult for him. Recently, he had been focusing most of his attention on filming and did not pay much attention to his studies. He had to spend even more effort on it. He was also worried that if his grades deteriorated, his mother would not let him film anymore. Fortunately, there was a good reward in the end. When scored full marks in all his subjects. Although there were a few people in the class who scored full marks and were tied for first place, he was still first place. He was so happy. In order to reward Wan for his good results, Fu Yun Ruo even promised to bring him to the water park to play. After that, Wan officially entered his first summer vacation. He was excited for a few days. He had gone to all the fun places in the capital. Fu Yun Ruo was still thinking about whether to bring him to other cities to play, but Wan was unwilling to go. He had to be considerate of his mother. It was very tiring to go out to play. It was better to stay at home. His mother went to the flower garden every day to work, so it was not as tiring as bringing him out to play. Fu Yun Ruo saw that he was unwilling to go to other places, so she did not insist. She could also take this opportunity to run her live stream career well. When played in the flower garden, He felt as if he had returned to the days in the past. His mother would work in the flower garden while he played outside. However, the flower garden in the countryside was quiet and peaceful. It could calm one's heart down there. The flower garden in the capital was very prosperous and lively. It was full of people. After playing for a few days, Yuan Xian and Siyu came to the flower garden to look for Wan. In the end, Siyu did not take on the movie that director Mo recommended. Instead, he became the producer of a Xinxia movie and the biggest investor of the production team. Therefore, he was quite idle during this period. He would often appear in front of Wan and tease him to make him angry before smoothing things over. Siyu also understood one thing. If he wanted Fu Yunruo to accept him from the bottom of her heart, he had to make this little guy acknowledge him. Otherwise, Fu Yunruo would not accept him. Every time Wan saw Siyu, he would feel very awkward. Every time he wanted to ignore him, he would always make him jump up and down. This cycle repeated. This time, when he saw Siyu, he subconsciously turned his head and snorted to show that he did not welcome him. However, he would sweetly call out to Yuan Xian, "Uncle Yuan." Siyu would secretly grind his teeth every time. Rascal! Yuan Xian was very happy to watch the father and son fight. However, he came over this time for serious business. Therefore, after Fu Yunruo came over, the four of them talked in the living room. Yuan Xian said to Fu Yunruo, "The movie is in the summer and has already started to promote it. At this time, when one can open his social media account." Yuan Xian asked for Fu Yunruo's opinion. Although this was his initial plan, in the end, he still needed Fu Yunruo's approval. Yuan Xian had seen the movie's effects. He could pat his chest and guarantee that once the movie was released, Wan would definitely be the most dazzling child star. Even Siyu's limelight might be overshadowed by Wan. Fu Yunruo did not have any objections to Wan when opening his own social media account. However, she had a request. She hoped that he would not use Wan to create hype. Just like Siyu, other than news related to filming, there was no other nonsense. When there was a drama, everyone would know. When there was no drama, he would be so low-key as if he did not exist in the entertainment industry. She knew that Wan had just started acting and could not even be considered a small child star. However, she still hoped that from the start, Wan would be like Siyu. Fu Yunruo felt that if Yuan Xian could protect Siyu to such an extent, then Wan should be able to do the same. Although Wan did not like his mother saying that he would be like Siyu, he did not want to be like Siyu. However, from the bottom of his heart, he also hoped that he would be like Siyu in the entertainment industry. He would only have his own works and would be clean and independent from the world. No matter whether it was good or bad, there would not be any gossip. There would only be discussions about his works, and only his works would be circulated. This was a huge temptation for Wan, who had a bad reputation in his previous life. Hence, he looked at Yuan Xian with sparkling eyes and unconsciously looked forward to it. Yuan Xian agreed without hesitation. "Don't worry. With me around, I guarantee that there won't be any nonsense." Wasn't it just making Wan as taboo as Siyu? There was no problem at all. This was not something that he could have done. It was Siyu who had done it with his own abilities. Wan was his son. Even if they did not say anything, Siyu would definitely make such arrangements in private. Hence, he agreed without any pressure. Fu Yunruo could not help but smile and thank him profusely. Wan was also very grateful. "Thank you, Uncle Yuan. You're welcome. It's what I should do." Yuan Xian smiled and waved his hand. He completely ignored Siyu's death stare behind him and took all the credit for his hard work. After the discussion, Yuan Xian discussed with his team and asked the public relations team to keep an eye on the situation online. He took out a new phone and registered Wen's social media account. Yuan Xian registered the two biggest social media accounts for Wan. One was the Panda platform forum that Fu Yunruo was on, and the other was Weibo. Fu Yunruo looked at it and immediately followed Wen's account. She even set up a special account. Siyu's speed was not slow at all. He became the second follower. Wan watched Yuan Xian's actions and jumped excitedly at the side. He reached out and wanted to snatch the phone. "Uncle Yuan, I want to follow Mom first. Let me do it. Let me do it." How could Yuan Xian disagree? He smiled and handed the phone to Wan. Wenwen immediately opened Fu Yunruo's account and set a special account. Siyu reminded him from the side. Follow me too. Wenwen pretended not to hear. He did not follow Siyu. He did not hear or see anything. Yuan Xin watched him follow Fu Yunruo and ask for the phone. Seeing how pitiful Siyu was, Yuan Xin inadvertently followed him from the list of accounts that he wanted to follow. During this time, Wenwen's number of followers and fans kept increasing. Many fans who had followed Fu Yunruo, Siyu, and Yuan Xion's accounts all followed this account and kept sending private messages. Was it Wenwen, the little cutie? Especially Fu Yunruo's fans. A considerable number of them were actually Wenwen's fans. However, they did not have a social account, so they followed Fu Yunruo instead. They did not do any publicity, but everyone on the internet was very sharp and quickly found their way over. Yuan Xian patted Wenwen's head and said with a smile, "Think about what your first Weibo post should be." Wenwen's heartbeat unconsciously quickened. He felt like he was very nervous when he was followed for the first time. It was his first Weibo post. He had to think carefully. Wenwen could not help but look at Fu Yunruo. Fu Yunruo looked at him encouragingly. In the end, Wenwen still posted a proper message. "Hello everyone, I'm Wenwen. Please take care of me." The two accounts on the platforms updated at the same time. Fu Yunruo and Siyu Ruo commented immediately. Rolling Clouds v. My little cutie. Thank you for your support. Siyu Ruo. Yes, my little cutie. Yuan Xian showed Wenwen the comments. The number of comments and fans increased explosively. Everyone was very enthusiastic and rolled around cutely below the post. Fu Yunruo smiled and said proudly, "Everyone likes Wenwen very much." Wenwen could not help but smile. Although the team did not promote Wenwen, just the fans of Fu Yunruo and Siyu Ruo made Wenwen's account trending. The other people in the entertainment industry who got along well with Wenwen followed him and even patted his head. Yuan Xian looked at the celebrity director who usually took care of Fawn Fawn and the names of the staff members that Wenwen remembered. Wenwen could not help but tiptoe to read the comments. "I've finally waited for you. Is this my child? My child. Aw. Who is this? Brother, you actually set up a special account. Zai, you finally have an account. Mama has been waiting for a long time. Is this the little cutie who hugged Brother Yu's thigh? Yes, that's right. This is the little cutie who wants to be friends with Brother Yu. Rub it first." Although Wenwen had only appeared on an ordinary program, it was obvious that many people still remembered him. Yuan Xian looked at the tens of thousands of followers that jumped up in the blink of an eye. He thought to himself, Wenwen's two accounts are probably the first in history to have exceeded 10 million followers in less than an hour after they were opened. At least a third of Fu Yunruo's fans came over in less than an hour. Some fans probably noticed it and shouted in the group chat. Then, almost everyone online came over to follow. Siyu Ruo had a huge fan base. Many of them had also watched the program and had an impression of Wenwen. Whether it was out of goodwill or curiosity, they all came over to follow. Other than that, there were also Xiaowaning, Director Mo, and other people who came from all over to follow. Fu Yunruo was so surprised that she was a little shocked. She had always known that Wenwen was very popular, but wasn't this too exaggerated? This was the first time she had seen it. In just an hour, the number of fans had exceeded 10 million. Did these people live on the platform? Brother Yuan couldn't have bought powder, right? Fu Yunruo's gaze was a little suspicious. Yuan Xian swore to the heavens that he definitely did not buy fans. It was all real data. Fu Yunruo looked at the hundreds of thousands of comments and flipped through them a few times. There were many familiar IDs. The fans on her side accounted for half of the comments in the comments section. Fu Yunruo looked at her 50 million fans. Yes, these 50 million fans were probably also Wenwen's fans. Thinking about it this way, it didn't seem exaggerated at all. Fu Yunruo hugged Wenwen and kissed her. Our Wenwen is the best. Wenwen's face was red. Not long after, someone from the team called Yuan Xian and conveyed the message that Wenwen's trending topic was too many and they couldn't suppress it. Ever since Yuan Xian saw the skyrocketing number of fans, he was not surprised and only said that they could suppress it. He was full of confidence now and was not afraid at all. With Wenwen's popularity, even if he didn't make it to the trending topic, he would still be very popular. Other people couldn't wait to stay on the trending topic, but Wenwen's trending topic couldn't be suppressed. He didn't have any works now, but when he had works in the future, there would probably be such a grand occasion every 2 to 3 days. Yuan Xian couldn't help but think that this red fate could be inherited. Siyu was already very impressive, but Wenwen seemed to have the potential to surpass his father. This father and son pair really made people envious. Yuan Xian didn't stay for long and left very quickly. He had to keep an eye on the team and the internet in person to prevent any mistakes. When he left, he took his phone with him. Before Wenwen turned 18, his social media account was under Yuan Xian's control. This was to prevent children from being immature and thinking that it was fun to play and post all kinds of nonsense on the internet. Wenwen. He really wanted his phone. He really wanted his account. However, even Fu Yunrua didn't stand on Wenwen's side. Wenwen could only watch as Yuan Xian took his phone and account away. He wanted. Chapter 98. Fu Yun comforted him. When you grow up, the account will belong to you. Wenwen was secretly sad. He felt that he was not comforted at all. The account of tens of millions of fans did not belong to him yet. He was very sad that he had lost it. He was no longer a child. He had self-control and would never spout nonsense on the internet. Unfortunately, no one believed him. Fu Yun saw that he was in low spirits, so she asked him to read the comments on her phone. She skimmed through the comments. There were no sour words. They were all good comments, so it was fine for Wenwen to read more. Wenwen took the phone and was overjoyed. He hurriedly read the comments one by one seriously. Compared to his previous life, every time he posted something on social media, the comment section would be filled with bloodshed. His fans were basically beaten up in the end. The comments now were very warm. If his die-hard fans in his previous life saw this, they might be very gratified. Perhaps they had seen it now. No, most of his fans in his previous life might still be drinking milk and going to school. Some might not even be born yet. Wenwen suddenly could not help but laugh. Perhaps he was still going to school with his die-hard fans in his previous life. Fu Yun saw that Wenwen was reading seriously, and her expression softened. Siyu saw a hot comment under the trending search. A netizen had taken a screenshot of his and Fu Yun's conversation and put it together. Cloud rolling clouds. My little cutie. Thank you for your support. Siyu. Yes, my little cutie. I seem to have discovered something. There were a bunch of replies under the hot comment. It was very lively. Warning, your account is gone. Your account is gone. Do you think we don't want to? But reality doesn't allow it. Let's see when this account is gone. In the end, after a few hundred comments, this comment was still there. CU's fans suddenly realized something and quickly formed a group. The number of people kept increasing. The 2,000 people group was filled in an instant. However, the chat was quiet and no one spoke. After a while, someone asked tentatively, "So, we really hit the jackpot? Probably? Sisters, I just went to test the waters and posted some gossip about Brother Yu and a female artist. How is it?" It was deleted in 3 seconds. Then they looked at the comments that were still high up in the trending section and sighed meaningfully. The fans couldn't be blamed for thinking the wrong way. Some of them had been following CU since its debut. Over the past 10 years, what had they not encountered? Any comments that attempted to create a scandal with CU, or any netizens who tried to couple CU online, were quickly deleted. Most of the time, they couldn't even be posted. Their fans were quiet and didn't cause any trouble. Compared to the fans of other celebrities who openly declared their love lines, these small moons were miserable. They had to be secretive even if they wanted to declare their love lines. Even if there were fans who fell into the trap later on, the older fans would still explain and quietly abide by the rules. Those who didn't listen to the rules and caused trouble were removed from the fan list. From the beginning, the team had regulated their fan group to not create any scandals. They also knew that CU didn't have any gossip to begin with. This was because the company spent a lot of money on PR every year to deal with these matters. They secretly guessed that CU might be a relative of the big boss of Apple Entertainment. However, they didn't get any confirmation, so they just let it go. It was easy to be a fan of a celebrity who didn't cause trouble. However, they didn't have the chance to fight all year round. Occasionally, they would see fans of other celebrities fighting over their idol online. Then, they would look at their own fans. They were peaceful and worry-free. Countless times, they felt how lonely it was to be invincible. When they discovered that Siyu and Fu Yun's interactions were very ambiguous and warm, they vaguely felt that something was going on. However, after so many years of habit, they didn't dare to say anything even if they could tell. Now, they actually found out that when they tried to pair Siyu and Fu Yun together and tried to form a CP, they weren't blocked or deleted. What did this mean? It meant that they were real. However, even if they knew, they were still very calm. They didn't go around making a fuss. Instead, they happily discussed what they should name this CP. The group of people was very lively in their discussion. As for whether they were worthy or not, their idol was already over 30 years old. What was wrong with dating? They had already prepared for their idol to come out of the closet. Now that they found out that there was a living female living by his side, they had no objections. Why did they feel an inexplicable sense of regret? Siyu didn't know or care about the private affairs of his fans. He stood beside Fu Yun in a relaxed manner. His tone was very proud. "Our son is very impressive. Our son." Fu Yun looked up and glanced at Siyu. She couldn't refute and could only agree. Fu Yun looked at Wenwan. "He has always been very good." However, after being happy, Fu Yun was worried that becoming famous too early would bring immeasurable changes to Wenwan's life. She didn't know if it was a good or bad thing. Siyu seemed to have seen her worry and said steadily, "I'll take care of everything." Fu Yun turned her head and met Siyu's gentle eyes. She suddenly felt that it was quite good to have someone to share the responsibility of raising a child with. Fu Yun had always been worried that she didn't know how to raise a child and was afraid that she would raise the child astray. Siyu was so outstanding. He would definitely be a good role model. Her heartstrings loosened a little. Siyu and Fu Yun looked at the child at the side and chatted from time to time. Although they didn't talk much, there was an inexplicable peaceful scene. Fu Yun saw that it was about time and quickly took the phone back. She couldn't let the child come into contact with electronic products for too long. She tried her best not to let the child play with them. Otherwise, it would easily affect the child's vision. Wenwan was reluctant to part with the phone, but he was obedient and didn't play with it. It was a pity that time passed so quickly. He felt that he didn't look at it for long. After being happy, Wenwan suddenly realized that the atmosphere between his mother and Siyu was inexplicably harmonious and friendly. He was instantly alert. Was Siyu coaxing his mother again when he wasn't looking? No, he had to watch. Siyu. What was this little rascal thinking of again? Wenwan started to stick to Fu Yun. He turned into a little tail and followed her wherever she went. Before he started school, he used to stick to his mother like this. Wenwan missed it. Fu Yun didn't know what Wenwan was thinking. She saw that Wenwan had nothing to do all day. She thought for a while and asked, "Do you want to go back to the village to play?" Fu Yun thought that Wenwan would be on summer vacation for 2 months. He could go back to the village to play for 10 days to half a month before coming back. But Fu Yun thought of the mess here. It shouldn't be a problem for her to leave for 10 days to half a month. Children were more important. Wenwan's eyes lit up. Fu Yun's words reminded Wenwan of his brothers and uncles in the village. However, he thought of the long and inconvenient journey. He thought of his mother's serious illness at the beginning of the year. He didn't want his mother to be tired again. Hence, he shook his head and said considerately, "Let's go back after the new year." Moreover, it would be very tiring to take the bus back and forth on such a hot day. They would have to transfer a few times. Fu Yun patted Wenwan's head. "Then, why don't you invite the children you know here to play?" This was a good idea. Wenwan's eyes lit up. "Can I invite Kong Kong, Dodo, Lulu to our house as guests?" Wenwan counted his classmates who were on good terms with him. After careful calculation, the people he wanted to invite accounted for more than half of the class. Fu Yun asked him to think about how to entertain the children. Should we entertain the children at the flower bed or at home? What activities are there? Fu Yun encouraged him to make a plan. Wenwan thought about it seriously. He had too many things to do. His longing for his friends in the village was diluted. Hence, Wenwen ran to get a pen and paper to make a plan. 2 hours later, Wenwen took the written plan and ran to Fu Yun excitedly. Then, he said, I've decided. I want to entertain my friends at home. Wenwen thought about it carefully. Although the flower bed was bigger and more beautiful, it was summer now. They couldn't play outside as it was easy to get heat stroke. Moreover, there was no place suitable for children to play. Home was different. The area of the house was not small. More than 10 friends could walk around. He also had a special entertainment room and a courtyard. Otherwise, they could go to the amusement park in the community to play. The security of the community was very high. They were not afraid that the children would go out and get lost. They could play in the amusement park for the whole afternoon. However, he would have to trouble his mother at noon. She had to be responsible for the children's lunch. They will come over from 9:30 to 10 in the morning. I will take them to the courtyard to play. Then, they will play in the entertainment room on the second floor. After lunch, they will rest for an hour and a half. Then, they will go to the amusement park in the community to play. After 4 o'clock, the children will go home. Fu Yun patted Wenwen's head and praised. Well, Wenwen's plan is really good. After getting Fu Yun's approval, Wenwen was extremely proud. Hence, he first discussed the time of the treat. Because this plan was quite sudden, it might be a little rushed if it was too early. Therefore, it was arranged to be 5 days later. This was the first time Wenwen officially invited his friends to play. He was quite nervous. Wenwen had their contact information. Hence, accompanied by Fu Yun, he called them one by one to invite them. In the end, except for a few who were on vacation overseas, the rest guaranteed to come. Just as Wenwen was excitedly waiting for the treat, Siyu had a chance to get close to Fu Yun. Siyu looked at the potted plants around him. Seeing that Fu Yun was busy, he picked up the watering can at the side and prepared to help water them. Fu Yun turned her head and saw Siyu holding the watering can. The nozzle was already aimed at the soil of the potted plants and was about to water them. Fu Yun's heart skipped a beat. Stop it! Siyu turned his head with a puzzled expression. What's wrong? Fu Yun was very nervous. Don't move. Don't move. Okay. Although he was puzzled, Siyu obediently maintained his position and did not move. Fu Yun carefully went over, pressed down on the nozzle, and took the watering can over. Only then did she heave a sigh of relief. Fortunately, she saw it in time. Otherwise, she would have been scolded if Uncle Gua's most precious flower had been killed. It was nothing to be scolded, but it would be heartbreaking to see such a beautiful flower die. These orchids don't need to be watered. Siyu pointed to the signboard beside the orchids. It says how much water should be watered at this time. He was not watering them carelessly. Let me do it, Fu Yun said with a headache. Did this plant killer not know what was going on? He had been unable to raise the flowers for so many years. He had been blaming the sky, the earth, the air, the environment, and even the way he planted the flowers was weird. Yet, he had never looked for the reason himself. Wenwen had learned this very well. I just want to help you. Siyu's voice unconsciously carried a hint of grievance. You standing by the side is the greatest help you can give me. Ha ha ha. Wenwen looked up. Before he could get angry at Siyu for getting close to his mother while he was not paying attention, he gloated and mocked him. Serves you right. Mother will never give you a chance to get close to Hua Hua. You want to help mother work to please her? Impossible, huh? Siyu looked at Wenwen indifferently. Did you raise the flowers? The laughter stopped abruptly. Wenwen pulled a long face and looked at him expressionlessly. This time, it was Siyu's turn to mock him mercilessly. Fu Yun. Both of them were about the same. Let's not talk about each other. Was it really good to hurt each other like this? Wenwen could not win against Siyu, but he was still a child. Thus, he ran to Fu Yun's side and hugged her thigh. Mother, he bullied me. That's right, he could still complain. He's too annoying. Let's not bother about him, okay? Wenwen acted cute and coquettishly. Fu Yun immediately felt dizzy and agreed to anything. Wenwen looked at her proudly. Siyu secretly gritted his teeth. He looked at Wenwen, who was acting cute, and suddenly said, Wenwen should start learning. Why don't I hire a few tutors? Originally, Siyu thought that he should wait until the child was 5 years old before starting his lessons. That way, he could relax for a year. Now, he felt that the child was still too free. Siyu came to the flower bed every day to report, but he did not have the chance to get close to Fu Yun. When one protected Fu Yun like she was protecting her own child, he did not even have the chance to get close to her. Thus, Siyu and Fu Yun discussed the child's learning during the summer vacation. When Fu Yun heard this, she was instantly attracted. What tutor? Of course, she felt that it would be better if one could learn as much as possible. She heard that children nowadays were not considered outstanding if they did not learn 2 or 3 hobbies and a specialty. However, Fu Yun was worried. Isn't it too early? Why don't we wait until primary school? Siyu said seriously, it's not early. The child is very smart. I started learning when I was 3 years old. Don't worry, the first 2 years of teaching were very easy. You can watch from the side. If you feel that it's unacceptable, you can watch from the side. Fu Yun was very tempted. Siyu said, doesn't one like to act? Learning some musical instruments and dancing will be very useful for his development. Fu Yun nodded in agreement. This was the big boss of the entertainment industry. He was the most qualified to speak. Every word of his experience was worth 1,000 gold. Fu Yun almost wanted to take notes. Fu Yun could not help but be curious. What are you good at? Siyu said, piano, violin. I know a little about the saxophone. I don't have any specialty. It's mainly to nurture an elegant artistic temperament and learn the ability to appreciate music. He had always been the one to appreciate other people's music. Other than in front of his family, he had never played music for anyone. No one could make him take the initiative to show his skills. But now, there was one. Siyu smiled at Fu Yun and said, when I have time, I'll play the piano for you. Fu Yun smiled and did not respond. Instead, she lowered her head to ask for Wan Wen's opinion. What musical instrument do you like to learn? Piano? Fu Yun's first thought was this instrument. She imagined Wan Wen sitting in front of the piano gently when he grew up, playing a moving melody. God, it was too beautiful. He was simply the little prince of the piano. When one was horrified, it was fine if he had to go to kindergarten, but he still had to study and learn his specialty? Then wouldn't he not have any holidays? He was still a child. However, before he could express his opinion, Siyu also looked over and suggested, take a few days of musical instrument lessons first. See which one you like. Fu Yun nodded. That's fine too. Just by saying that, one might not even know what musical instruments were and what the differences were. It was better to let one experience it first before making a choice. I know a teacher in this field. When the time comes, I'll contact him and arrange a time to come over to take a look. Fu Yun did not know anyone in this field. Since Siyu knew someone who was more trustworthy, she did not argue and directly agreed. Wen, couldn't he give his opinion just because he was young? Wen said loudly, I want to learn the piano. I want to learn the violin. I also want to play the error. Wen remembered that in his previous life, he did not have the conditions to learn these. He even embarrassed himself at a banquet and was mocked for a long time. Now that these were mentioned, Wen's unhappy memories were evoked. He thought to himself that if he had the chance in this life, he would definitely learn a profession. Fu Yun looked over and asked worriedly, won't it be too tiring to learn so many things at once? Let's take it slow and learn the piano first. Siyu also agreed. Mastering music is easy. Once you learn how to play 1 or 2 musical instruments, you will be able to learn the rest very quickly. It was just the difference between a professional and an amateur. However, since Wen did not have the intention to shine in the music industry, it was enough for him to learn about an amateur. Since Wen had already made up his mind, there was no need to let the tutor visit one by one. Siyu directly called the piano tutor and asked him to come over at 3:30 p.m. the next day. He also made a private call. So urgent. Fu Yun heard that it was tomorrow. I haven't bought a piano for Wen yet. Then she would have to go to the musical instrument store to buy a piano tonight. There's no need to buy one. I have a piano at home. Siyu said, I'll get someone to send it over tomorrow. This? Fu Yun hesitated. Wen is also my child. I should do anything for him. Siyu looked at Fu Yun and said, "You have to get used to it." She did have to get used to it. No matter what, he was still Wenwen's father. Wenwen poured cold water on him. "No way. Mom, let's buy it ourselves." Wenwen glared at Siyu. It was said that gifts blind one's eyes. If he accepted more things from him, her mother would be even more embarrassed to reject him. Wenwen thought that it was because she had asked him to bring him to the audition. If he came over to make his presence known, her mother would be too embarrassed to chase him away. Okay, we'll buy it ourselves." Siyu was speechless. He smiled and said, "Since the child needs to learn, why don't you not waste your time in the morning and learn something else?" Fu Yun was speechless. Wenwen said, "I won't." However, Wenwen's protest was useless. Siyu was unusually firm, and there was no room for discussion. Fu Yun also had objections. Siyu explained gently, "It's a very relaxing and enjoyable class. You won't be tired. You can watch it for a few days. If you feel that there's a problem, we'll cancel it." Fu Yun had no choice but to agree. She could only express her helplessness towards Wenwen's resistance. Early the next morning, a few tall young men in black trousers and jackets carried a piano over. Under Wenwen's resolute protest and Siyu's insistence, Fu Yun was in a dilemma. In the end, she thought of a compromise. She spent money to buy Siyu's piano. Fu Yun thought that she was really smart. However, she had to hide this from Wenwen. Therefore, Wenwen didn't know that this piano belonged to Siyu's family. She looked at the piano that Siyu said wasn't expensive at all. It wasn't as if she didn't know anything. This piano should be the legendary royalty of pianos. It was priceless. There was only one piano made 30 years ago. It was the proudest work of a great pianist and also his last work. She didn't expect to see it here. She didn't even have a fraction of her 100,000 yuan. When Wenwen saw this piano, she was very happy. She liked it very much and felt that it was very good. Isn't it too wasteful to give such an expensive piano to a beginner like Wenwen? Fu Yun whispered to Siyu. She felt that her idea was a bad idea. If she had known that it was so expensive, she would have bought it herself. Siyu was in a very good mood. It's worth it if Wenwen likes and fancies it. I also used this piano to learn when I was young. Fu Yun looked at the young men, carefully carrying the piano to the piano room that she had temporarily tidied up. She suddenly felt that such a simple and crude place wasn't worthy of such a high-end piano. After the young men set up the piano, they left respectfully. Wenwen's eyes were glued to the black piano. It was simple and elegant, noble and charming. It stood there quietly, aloof from the world and independent. Fu Yun saw that Wenwen liked it so much, she couldn't even say the words of regret. She thought that she would be able to buy this piano if she earned 8 to 10 years of money, right? Siyu walked over. His slender fingers brushed across the black piano cover, then he opened it. He sat on the piano chair, and his fingers brushed across the keys. A string of beautiful notes sounded. Then, he started to play. The familiar music sounded. Fu Yun was surprised. She couldn't help but look over. It was a very classic song, for Alice. This song wasn't difficult, and the technique was very simple. She had thought that Siyu would play a very difficult piece. However, this song sounded very beautiful. Siyu's gaze was slightly lowered. His slender fingers danced nimbly on the piano keys. Then, he naturally transitioned to the next song. This was the song that Siyu wanted to play for Fu Yun. It was a very difficult song. It was obvious that he was just practicing. Music always made people feel calm. When the last note fell, Fu Yun returned to her senses after a while. Then, she praised, "It's very beautiful music." Although she knew a little how to play the piano, she didn't know how to play difficult songs. Siyu's lips curved into a smile. "I'm glad you like it." Wenwen was also fascinated by the music, but he was not convinced. "Mom, when I learn it, I'll play it for you too." Okay. Mom will wait." Wenwen's fighting spirit was aroused. He decided to learn seriously and defeat Siyu. However, the piano teacher would only come in the afternoon. In the morning, 2 cultured and elegant etiquette teachers came. The 2 teachers gave off a very different aura. They were of a higher level than the etiquette teachers of the original body. Fu Yun didn't know how to describe it. If she really had to differentiate, It would be like the difference between a poor student and an elite student in an etiquette class. Fuyun knew from her memories that families with a little background placed great importance on nurturing the next generation. These etiquette classes were the most basic requirements. Aristocratic families also had social circles. Different occasions had different etiquette. If you didn't know anything, you would be embarrassing the aristocratic family. Fuyun hadn't thought of letting Wenwen learn these things, but Siyu had already arranged for someone to do it. Seeing how these etiquette teachers were respectful and polite to Siyu, she couldn't help but suspect Siyu's identity. Outside, it was rumored that Siyu was just an ordinary actor with an ordinary family background. She used to think so too, but now, she suddenly didn't understand this word. If he was really so ordinary, would he have the only expensive piano in the world? Or did he use it to learn when he was young? How could he hire better etiquette teachers than the Fu family? Who exactly was Siyu? Chapter 99. Fuyun thought of something that was even more unreasonable. How could Siyu not be at a disadvantage when compared to the male and female leads in the original novel? She had never thought deeply about it in the past. After all, there were many unreasonable things in a novel. Perhaps it was just to set up the persona of a big boss in the entertainment industry. However, if he was just a big boss in the entertainment industry, would he have such great ability? Fuyun had a lot of doubts in her heart. Ever since she found out that Feng Shui's status in the entertainment industry had declined, her reputation was bad, and her fans had caused many resources to be blocked. Fuyun would occasionally think about a question. Was the female lead's halo gone? According to the previous plot, anyone who went against the male and female leads would not have a good ending. But now, she had already offended the male and female leads, and she was still fine. Her career was in full swing, and she was not affected at all. Siyu was the same. From the beginning, he had never suffered a loss to them. Fuyun recalled the plot in the novel. It was only a few chapters away from the end of the plot. Feng Shui was pregnant, they got married, and it would end with the wedding of the century. She did not know the exact time, but after some calculations, it would probably be this year. Roruo. Siyu saw that Fuyun was suddenly in a daze as she was talking, so he could not help but call out to her with concern. Fuyun came back to her senses. What's wrong? She shook her head. Nothing. Fuyun really wanted to ask about Siyu's background, but she felt that it would be too abrupt, so she did not ask anything in the end. Wenwen was very resistant to the etiquette teacher. He swore that he did not want to study and wanted to cause trouble. He did not want to be arranged by Siyu. Fuyun did not intervene. She knew that it was for Wenwen's good. However, on the one hand, she felt that Wenwen was still too young. It would be too stressful to study so many classes at once. She only wanted Wenwen to have a relaxed and happy childhood. If he was really unwilling, it would not be too late for him to be more sensible in a year or two. However, these two teachers were very resourceful. Within 2 days, they had piqued Wenwen's interest and made him take the initiative to learn. The teachers didn't ask Wenwen to remember. They just spent 2 hours teaching her every day. Under the influence of what they saw and heard, the etiquette habits slowly integrated into her bones unconsciously. Because there were no requirements, he just lectured every day. There were also many vivid examples, just like listening to a story. Occasionally, he would make a demonstration for fun. Wenwen followed him and imitated him excitedly. It was indeed easy for her to learn. As for the effect, she did not see any results in just a few days. But she did not know if it was Fuyun's illusion. But she felt that Wenwen's temperament and demeanor looked a little different. When Fuyun saw this, she had no more objections. She tried to recall the etiquette teacher of the Fu family from the depths of her memory. Compared to this, she was simply trash. Learning the piano was also a very pleasant process. Wenwen's brain worked quickly and he learned quickly. At first, he felt that 2 hours of learning a day was too short and wanted to learn more. If it wasn't for Fuyun's restriction of time, he would have wanted to sit in front of the piano for the entire day. Fuyun looked at Wenwen, who was learning enthusiastically every day. He did not look reluctant at all. She thought for a moment, could this be the legendary fragrance? Soon, it was the day that Wenwen invited the children over as guests. Fu Yun had dressed up the house very early in the morning and even made many small animal pastries in advance. As it was summer now, Fu Yun made many summer sweets and consulted a nutritionist to prepare a suitable lunch for the children. This nutritionist was introduced by Siyu and was very professional. Fu Yun was even more curious about Siyu's identity. She began to recall which powerful and influential tycoons in the country had the surname Si. She felt that the Fu family was already at a high position and knew which low-key aristocratic families there were, even though they did not interact with each other. However, she did not have any impression of them. Could it be that they were overseas? Fu Yun really could not guess, so she suppressed her doubts in her heart. On the day of the banquet, Wenwan was dressed like a little prince and stood at the door to welcome the guests. Around 9:30 p.m., the children's parents sent their children over one after another. Kong Kong was the first to arrive. The car stopped in front of the door. As soon as the car door opened, Kong Kong jumped out of the car with a cool robot in her hand. When she saw Wenwan, she rushed over excitedly. Wenwan, Wenwan. Kong Kong rushed in front of Wenwan and happily handed over the robot in her hand. This is my favorite toy. It's for you. Thank you. Wenwan took it and thanked her happily. I like it very much. Kong Kong was even happier when she saw that Wenwan liked it very much. She even went forward to hug him. Kong Kong's parents walked over, and Wenwan greeted them politely. Hello, Uncle and Auntie. Fu Yun also greeted the children's parents. She could not help but take another look at Kong Kong's mother. She was more familiar with Kong Kong's father, who fetched them every day, but it was her first time meeting Kong Kong's mother. She was not the elite woman she had imagined. Instead, Wenwan was gentle and not aggressive. Hello, Wenwan's mother. I've heard a lot about you. Hello, Kong Kong's mother. The adults greeted each other warmly and politely. Kong Kong had already pulled Wenwan into the house eagerly. It was his first time at Wenwan's house, so he was looking forward to it and excited. As Siyu had not been accepted yet, he could not welcome the guests as a parent. He could only help as a friend like Tian Tian and Qian Shengnan. And even if he went to help, he could not show his face in front of the children's parents. Who knew how many of the parents knew Siyu? If they were his fans, the scene would be too beautiful. Therefore, Siyu could only come over after all the parents had left. He was very depressed in his heart, but he had to pretend that he did not care. The children's parents saw that Wenwan's parents were well prepared, and there were also a few adults who were paying attention to the children at all times. They were very relieved and did not stay for long before leaving. They agreed to come back in the afternoon to pick up the children. They received more than 10 little guests one after another. The house was already very lively, and the children's noisy and happy voices could be heard outside. Wenwan acted like a little host. He brought the group of children to visit his house and then ate the pastries that his mother had made. Fu Yun had already confirmed with every parent that there was nothing that the children did not eat or were allergic to. She carefully avoided them, so the children could eat to their heart's content. After tasting his mother's cooking, Wenwan brought them to play games and toys. Fortunately, the children were very obedient to Wenwan, so it was very easy to bring them around. Fu Yun, Siyu, and Tian Tian did not participate, but they kept watching the little guests from the side. They watched to avoid any accidents and dangers, and if there was anything that they needed, they would help to solve in time. At noon, the nutritionist and chef introduced by Siyu cooked a sumptuous children's meal together. They took care of every child's taste, and the children ate until their stomachs were round and round. They were very happy. After digesting their food in the playroom for a while, Wenwan led the children to take an afternoon nap in the big room. Fu Yun bought many comfortable and cute small sleeping bags, and the floor was covered with soft blankets. The children were very curious and happily lay in the sleeping bags to take an afternoon nap. Wenwan also slept with them. After the children woke up, they went to the entertainment room in the neighborhood to play. When it was time to leave, they were still so happy that they did not want to go home. It was not until 5:30 that all the reluctant children were safely sent to their parents. The liveliness at home seemed to still be there, and Fu Yun's mind seemed to still be echoing with the children's screams and playful sounds. Fu Yun, Wenwan, and Tian Tian collapsed on the sofa, not wanting to move at all. Fu Yun finally heaved a sigh of relief. Although the children were very worry-free and did not cry or throw tantrums, there were so many children, and she had to be very careful at all times. It was very tiring. If this happened a few more times, it would be too scary. I really admire those kindergarten teachers. The children were obedient and were like little angels, but when they played, they were like Sun Wukong. Tian sighed. It was really tiring to take care of children. The children's energy seemed to be endless. It was really too scary. Fu Yun agreed very much. She felt that she had to thank the teachers properly. They were really too great. Fu Yun now felt that her entire body had been hollowed out, and she did not even want to move a finger. But seeing how happy Wenwen was, she felt that no matter how tired she was, it was worth it. Wenwen took the initiative to hug Fu Yun and kissed her twice on the face. "Thank you, Mom. It's been hard on you." Fu Yun's face bloomed with a smile, and she could not help but kiss back twice. She said happily, "You're welcome. Wenwen is very good." Wenwen chuckled. However, he felt that it was enough to treat them like this once. The next time he invited the children, 1 or 2 or 3 would be enough. It was too tiring to invite too many children. Siyu poured a glass of fruit juice for each of them, and then cleaned up the mess. To be honest, Siyu did the most work, especially when it came to physical work. He basically did it all. Fu Yun mainly comforted the children and guided them to pay attention to safety when they were playing. Those decorations had to be removed. So many children were running up and down, sweeping and mopping the floor. There was also a pile of trash that had to be thrown out. Fu Yun and the others lay down for a while, and they cleaned up together. There was strength in numbers, and they quickly cleaned up the house. No matter what, today's banquet ended successfully. After that, many parents asked her about the dishes for lunch. Many children still wanted to eat after eating, and they clamored at home to eat more. After Fu Yun asked the chef, she sent the dishes and recipe over. After this, her relationship with the parents became much closer. Everyone even set up a parents group to exchange their thoughts on raising children. In the end, the nutritionist and chef stayed. Children had to be raised carefully, and the diet had to be adjusted according to their physical condition. For Wenwen's sake, Fu Yun was easily persuaded to compromise. The nutritionist said that the child's weight had exceeded the standard, and she needed to be careful. Fu Yun looked at Wenwen's small round body. The little girl's skin was fair and tender, and she looked cute. Her chubby body was even more adorable. She originally thought that this was very good, but the professional said that she had to control her weight, so she had to control it. As for the chef, Siyu said that Fu Yun was already very busy every day, so there was no need to spend so much time on 3 meals. She hired a professional chef to cook sumptuous, nutritious, and delicious food. The nutritionist and chef did not live at home, and they could not afford to. The chef would come over every day, prepare the food in the morning, noon, and night, and then leave. Siyu arranged for them to live in a residence near the district, so it was very convenient for them to come over every day. Fu Yun. She felt that her savings were not enough to support such a luxurious life. However, Siyu said that these were all long-term employees of the family. Regardless of whether they worked or not, they had to pay a large sum of money every year. It was better to let them use their skills. Fu Yun could not help but ask, "Does your family have an heir to the throne?" Siyu found it funny. No, he did have a financial group, but if he wanted the throne, he had many private islands under his name. It was about right to be the owner of an island. Then Siyu hinted, "If you think it's okay, I'll bring you to meet my family." When Fu Yun heard this, she decided to forget it. She would pretend that she did not ask. It was better not to talk about such a sensitive topic. Fu Yun turned around and realized that the house was much livelier. There was a piano teacher, an etiquette teacher, and even a chef and nutritionist. These teachers all revolved around Wenwen. Other than the chef, they could benefit from it. Because of this, she could not refuse firmly. Wenwen had to study, so she rarely went to the garden. Fu Yun asked Shengnan to stay at home. She could go there herself. Siyu saw that Wenwen was living a fulfilling life every day and did not have time to stick to Fu Yun. He finally had a chance to be alone with Fu Yun. Siyu smiled in satisfaction. Yes, children should study more. Why was she sticking to her mother all day like a child who had not been weaned? Then, he turned around to talk to Fu Yun. He suddenly took out an invitation and said in a mysterious tone, "Guess what this is?" Fu Yun looked over curiously. "What is it?" Siyu shook it and did not keep her in suspense. He directly explained the mystery. An invitation to the premiere. Fu Yun was pleasantly surprised. Needless to say, this was definitely the premiere of a sci-fi film that Wen had participated in. She took it and opened it. It was set to be a week later. Siyu's smile was gentle. "We'll bring Wen along to watch it." Fu Yun nodded repeatedly. This was Wen's first movie. She had to watch it. "Thank you." No matter what, she was very grateful to Siyu for getting this invitation. "You don't have to be so polite. It's what I should do." Fu Yun lowered her head and smiled. Uncle Gua saw that Siyu followed Fu Yun around every day. He did not say anything, but there was dissatisfaction between his brows that he wanted to take his beautiful little cabbage. Although he did not let him touch the flowers, he still had other things to do, such as sweeping the floor, mopping the floor, and running errands. Fu Yun felt a little sympathetic, but she did not say anything. At first, she thought that Siyu got close to her for Wen and confessed to her for Wen. However, after a long time, she could tell that even if Siyu's motives were not pure, he did have some feelings for her. Fu Yun Ruo could not tell where this good impression came from. Although she was already the mother of a child, she was more picky when it came to relationships and marriage. She yearned for a pure one that was not mixed with too many other factors. She still did not know if he liked her because she was the mother of his son. If it was another person, would he also pursue her? She did not want to think too deeply about things that were too complicated. Fu Yun felt that it was okay to raise a child together, but she still had to think carefully about forming a family for the child. Or should she just treat them as a divorced family? When one was so engrossed in her studies that she could not extricate herself. A few days later, when Yuan Xian came over to talk about serious matters, her eyes were still in a daze. Yuan Xian said, "Have you forgotten that the Xinsha film crew is about to start filming?" Wen. He really had forgotten. However, when Yuan Xian mentioned it, Wen asked happily, "Has filming already started? Am I going to join the crew?" "Yes, you have to go tomorrow afternoon." This time, there were many outdoor scenes and it was far from home. It was definitely not possible to go back and forth every day like last time, so Wen had to stay at the hotel there for a period of time. "I have already booked a suite and specially came over to inform you. I will pick you up at 2:00 tomorrow afternoon." Wen played the role of the male lead when he was young. As a character who did not appear much in the movie, filming for a week was enough. Moreover, because he appeared in the early stages of the movie, he joined the crew relatively early. Fu Yun also forgot about this matter. When she heard Brother Yuan's words, she also started to prepare her luggage. She was going to follow them. After being happy, Fu Yun suddenly thought, "Isn't the premiere 3 days later? Wouldn't that be a coincidence?" Fu Yun did not want to miss the premiere. "Premiere? What premiere?" When Wen heard this, she immediately asked expectantly, "Is it a sci-fi film?" Fu Yun originally wanted to give Wen a surprise that day. Now that she heard it, she did not hide it and said with a smile, "Yes." Wen jumped up happily and looked at Fu Yun with sparkling eyes. Yuan Xian obviously knew about this too. He said, "The film crew is not far from the premiere. You can just apply for leave then." Fu Yun was a little hesitant. "Won't that be bad?" She had just started filming and asked for leave. "It's okay. Wen doesn't have many scenes. You can just move the time." Yuan Xian did not care. "I've already talked to the director. Wen's scenes were at most 10 minutes. There was plenty of time for a week. It was not a big deal to leave after talking to the film crew." Fu Yun did not have any objections. She touched Wen's head. "Mommy and baby will watch baby's first movie together." Wen's cheeks were red. He smiled so widely that his teeth could not be seen. He replied heavily, "Okay." Wen's career was booming and smooth. In the same entertainment industry, Fang Shui had not been having a good time recently. There was a problem with the Xinsha film crew that she was in. The male lead was exposed to have a secret marriage. If that was the case, it would not be so bad. However, he had an affair and fooled around with the second female lead in the film crew. He was caught red-handed by the original wife. Now, the original wife was going to file a lawsuit for divorce. Most of this male star's fans were his girlfriend's fans. He even set up a persona of a pampered fan. Now, this male star was hated by everyone. There were a large number of fans in the comments section. There were even people who stepped on him and released concrete evidence. He even slept with his fans. This time, everyone was even more hateful. Even the film crew was deeply affected and had to stop filming. The director was even more furious. If they did not change the male lead, with so many stains that could not be washed away, the drama would definitely be affected. There might not even be a chance to air it. If they changed the male lead, they would be almost done filming. If they changed the male lead, their previous cost would be gone. It would be equivalent to filming from scratch. How could Feng Shui's expression be good? This was the best resource she had, but in the end, he was so tired because of someone else. The film crew discussed for a few days and finally decided to change the male lead. However, they would not film from scratch. Firstly, there was not enough time. Secondly, they did not have enough funds to support them. The film crew's biggest investors were Orange Entertainment and the Chang family. Recently, the Chang family had been troubled and had no time to care about a small film crew. This film crew was obviously going to be ruined. Why would they invest money in it? Orange Entertainment was not doing well either. It was worth mentioning that the male star who was in trouble was under Orange Entertainment. He was also a male star that the company had focused on nurturing. At first, they wanted to save him so that their investment would not be wasted. However, no matter how they greeted the industry or invested money to remove the trending topic and use other gossip to suppress it, it was useless. Before this incident was over, the company had another incident. The young actresses that they had focused on recently left collectively. There were also female stars who had been famous for a long time who were poached by other companies. The artists of Orange Entertainment had been dissatisfied with the company's unfair resource allocation for a long time. A year ago, all the resources were given to Feng Shui. No matter how dissatisfied they could only smile politely. After all, she had a strong background, so they could only hold back their opinions. This also led to the female artists in the company who wanted to make a name for themselves and had the ability to act could only find their own way. Otherwise, they could only remain silent and unknown. It was only when Feng Shui's reputation fell that they saw the hope of making a name for themselves. In the end, even though the company had already hinted that they would train them, they still had to make way for Feng Shui. Originally, the female lead of the Xinxia film crew had already been decided to be one of the young actresses in the company. She was about to make a name for herself, but because of Feng Shui's words, she had to give up the role. This also disappointed the female artists who had seen hope. They realized that as long as Feng Shui was around, they would never be able to make a name for themselves. Therefore, when other entertainment companies came to poach them, offered generous conditions, and promised that the company would pay for the breach of contract, they did not hesitate and immediately agreed. With all these things piled up, the company's higher-ups were in a terrible fix. They could barely take care of themselves, so how could they care about the crew? The company's higher-ups suddenly realized that almost half of the people in the company, whether they were unknown or slightly famous, had left. A considerable number of them had expired their contracts and did not renew them. When they looked at their resumes, they found that they were all slightly talented, but they did not have the opportunity to make a name for themselves. Once these people left, they did not even have enough talent to nurture. The company suffered a great loss. How could the company's higher-ups not be angry? Even though the Chang family was one of the company's biggest shareholders, they were still held accountable. After all, the other shareholders knew that if the young master of the Chang family had not used the company's resources to support his fiancée, the company would not have faced such a situation. When it came to their own interests, they were extremely clear-headed. In the past, why did they think that if Feng Shui could reach the same heights as CU, the company would become a giant in the entertainment industry? If they could not suppress these trivial matters, the crew would be greatly affected. Even if they tried to save them, they would not be able to come back. They could only feel the heartache of the loss of investment. Therefore, the crew had been abandoned. The director's way of saving himself was to terminate the contract with the male lead. He did not want to reshoot the film and replace the male lead with an unknown newcomer. Any slightly famous male star cherished his reputation and did not want to be involved with the crew. Therefore, on the other hand, the crew had been abandoned. If Feng Shui wanted to use the crew to stand in the entertainment industry again, it was impossible. Now that the company's higher-ups were even more dissatisfied with her, she could no longer have better resources. She was really banned. When she realized this, Feng Shui suddenly panicked and did not know what to do. In the past, when the Fu family and the Chang family were around, even if Feng Shui was angry that some resources were rejected, she would not be too affected, because she knew that she would not be driven into a corner. But now, the Chang family had just suffered a great loss. They had no choice but to give an explanation to the shareholders. Moreover, Feng Shui also realized that the elders of the Chang family were criticizing her. Feng Shui thought for a moment and asked the driver to take her back to the Fu family. Chapter 100. When Feng Shui returned home, Fu Zonghong and Feng Wanning were both at home. The sky was about to turn dark. The street lamps and the lights in the house were already on. The bright chandelier made the furnishings in the house look white. Fu Zonghong was sitting on the sofa, watching an educational channel. The only sound in the empty living room was the sound of the TV channel. Feng Wanning was in the kitchen cooking dinner with the auntie. "Uncle." Feng Shui walked to the other side of the sofa and sat down. "You're back," Fu Zonghong replied. "Where's Mom?" Feng Shui looked around and heard some movement in the kitchen. "In the kitchen," Fu Zonghong replied. He did not say anything else and continued to focus on the TV. Feng Shui's face was a little bitter. She watched for a while and really did not understand what was so interesting about this childish children's show. However, since Fu Zonghong did not take the initiative to talk to her, she did not say anything. "I'll go help Mom." She then got up and walked to the kitchen. Feng Shui saw Feng Wanting and felt wronged. "Mom." The auntie hurriedly greeted her. "Miss, you're back." Feng Wanting saw that Feng Shui was still unhappy when she came back. She did not say anything and just asked her to help. She chatted with the auntie affectionately. "This soup is a little bland. Old Fu's appetite hasn't been very good recently." "Madam really cares about sir." The auntie smiled. Feng Wanting had a faint smile on her face. "Old Fu doesn't take care of himself, so I have to take care of him from the side. Sir and Madam are really loving." Feng Wanting smiled. "What's there to be loving? We're already an old married couple. 6 dishes and 1 soup were all ready." Feng Wanting instructed Feng Shui to carry out the dishes. She also carried out a plate of colorful stir-fried vegetables. "Old Fu, it's time for dinner." Fu Zonghong responded. He picked up the remote control and pressed the pause button. Then, he got up and walked towards the restaurant. He was dressed in casual clothes and looked much younger. If it weren't for the wrinkles on his forehead, he would have looked like he was in his early 40s. Fu Zonghong looked at the dishes that were obviously prepared by Feng Wanting. His expression softened. "Thank you." Feng Wanting Wan smiled and said, "You should eat more. That's the greatest compliment you can give me." Feng Shui said jealously, "Mom only has eyes for uncle. Even I, as her daughter, have to take a step back." Feng Wanting smiled helplessly and said, "You're already so old, yet you're still jealous like a child." Fu Zonghong laughed. The family of 3 sat down and ate quietly. At first, they didn't talk. It was Feng Wanting who spoke first. "Shui Ruo, why did you come back at this time? Have you finished filming your scenes?" Feng Shuiruo looked depressed and lost her appetite even more. She said dejectedly, "No, something happened in the crew, so we can only put it on hold. The male lead of the crew has been changed, and several important supporting actresses have been terminated." Feng Wanting frowned. "Haven't you been filming for a long time? Isn't it a waste of time?" Fu Zonghong said unhappily, "A man who cheats on a girl and has an affair should be banned. How can anyone like such a person? There are so many messy people in the entertainment industry." Feng Shui couldn't help but be surprised. She didn't expect her uncle to know about this. Didn't he usually not pay attention to the entertainment industry? Feng Wanting sighed. Shui Ruo was also implicated. She worked so hard for so many months and even fell sick from exhaustion. In the end, all her efforts went down the drain. In business, there are losses and profits. High returns mean high risks. If you don't investigate thoroughly before investing, you can only bear the consequences if something happens. Fang Wanting looked at Fu Zonghong and said in agreement, "Now that things have come to this, don't think too much. There is more than one crew in your industry." Fang Shui was even more upset. She looked at Fu Zonghong, and her eyes suddenly turned red. "I've been banned. I have no more resources." Fang Wanping was surprised and asked repeatedly, "What's going on?" Fang Shui's voice choked with grief. "Ever since my sister on the internet, my life hasn't been easy. She has many friends in the entertainment industry, so my resources have been cut off. I don't care about that, because Brother Chong can still give me some resources. But now something has happened." Fang Shui lowered her head and tears dripped down. Fang Wanting's heart ached when she heard this, but she looked at Fu Zonghong hesitantly and finally sighed. She has always been angry. Forget it. She can take a break. Fang Wanting suddenly thought of something and said, "Why don't you go to your Uncle Fu's company and help him out? You can learn how to manage a company. You have been engaged with Brother Chong for so long. It's time to consider marriage. Learn some management skills and share some of Brother Chang's burdens." Fang Wanting looked at Fu Zonghong and asked for his opinion. "Brother Fu, what do you think?" Fu Zonghong frowned and said, "You were so insistent on joining the entertainment industry. Now you run away when you encounter problems. Can you solve the problem?" He didn't know what was so good about the entertainment industry. One after another, they all went to the entertainment industry to join the live broadcast industry. Fang Shui lowered her head and looked gloomy. Fang Wanting saw that Fu Zonghong was angry and quickly comforted him. "Brother Fu, don't be angry. She is depressed because of some setbacks. Isn't she taking things too hard?" Fu Zonghong put down his chopsticks, stood up, and was about to leave the dining room. Fang Wanting quickly stood up and chased after him. "Brother Fu, you're not eating anymore?" "I'm not eating anymore." Fu Zonghong left immediately. "Brother Fu," Fang Wanting called after him, but he didn't stop. For a moment, the dining room was eerily silent. Fang Shui didn't expect Uncle Fu to leave just like that. It was the first time she saw Uncle Fu disrespecting her mother. She couldn't react in time. Not long after, Fu Zonghong came downstairs. He had changed into a suit and said, "My old friend invited me out for a drink. Don't wait for me tonight." Fang Wanting said considerately, "Be careful. Don't drink too much." "Okay," Fu Zonghong replied casually, then turned and left. Fang Wanting watched as Fu Zonghong's back disappeared at the door. She stood for a while, then sat down on the chair and her face suddenly turned cold. Fang Shui hadn't seen her mother's expression other than a smile for a long time. She was as cold as a cicada in winter. She carefully said, "Mom?" Fang Wanping glanced at her indifferently. "Fang Shuerhua, what did I teach you?" Fang Shuerhua had played a good hand, but now it was ruined. Fang Wanping's painstaking efforts over the years had gone down the drain. How could she have such a stupid daughter? It was also because she didn't teach her well. Fang Shui used to be able to seduce a man using such a simple method. She naively thought that she could control everything. Before she really won, she couldn't be careless. Fang Shui was silent for a moment, then she said unwillingly, "Is blood relations that important?" Fang Wanting didn't say anything. She used to think that as long as one wanted to, even if they were blood relatives, they could turn against each other and never see each other again. But now, she realized that blood relations weren't that easy to sever. "Shuerhua." Fang Wanting's expression quickly softened. She gestured for Fang Shui to come over. Fang Shui moved her seat and sat next to Fang Wanting. "Shuerhua, you've been dating Ayu for so long. It's time for you to accept him," Fang Wanting said gently. "Ayu is infatuated with you. You have to cherish him." Fang Shui bit her lower lip. Her eyes flashed with a trace of unwillingness. "Mom, if you continue to delay him, Mom won't be on your side." Fang Wanting gently patted Fang Shui's hand. "Marriage is a woman's second reincarnation. You're very lucky to be able to marry a man who only has you in his heart." Fang Shui leaned her head gently on Fang Wanting's shoulder and said coquettishly, "You keep speaking up for him. Am I still your daughter?" "Silly child," Fang Wanting rebuked. It's because you're my daughter that I'm saying this. Feng Shui's eyes narrowed. She remained silent and didn't say anything else. Fu Zonghong got into the car and left. The driver asked respectfully, "Sir, where are you going?" Fu Zonghong was silent for a moment before he gave him an address. It was his property in another place, some distance away from here. Fu Zonghong didn't have any old friends looking for him. He just suddenly didn't want to stay at home. He realized that he had never really seen the two women in his family clearly. Many years ago, he didn't know when, but he only knew one thing. The mother and daughter had always been wronged and bullied by Yun Ruo. Yun Ruo had a bad temper. She was arrogant and vicious. She didn't have the demeanor of a noble lady at all. She was neurotic all day long. Later on, his temper also became irritable. He lost patience with his only daughter. Every time they met, they would quarrel endlessly. It was only recently that he learned about Fu Yun from other sources. It was as if he had just gotten to know her. It completely overturned his understanding of her. He didn't know that Fu Yun would be so popular if she had such a good temper. A few days ago, he secretly found Fu Yun's live broadcast room. The first entertainment app was installed on his phone. Since the first day he watched the live broadcast, he secretly followed every live broadcast. He even learned how to send gifts. Recently, Wen also opened a social media account and caused a stir on the internet. He even specially registered an account to follow and searched for it every day. Compared to his disapproval of Feng Shui and Fu Yun's involvement in the entertainment industry and live broadcast industry, Fu Zonghong had a different attitude in front of Wen. He was very proud to see that his grandson was so popular. He watched countless videos and pictures of him every day. Because he realized that he didn't pay enough attention to Fu Yun in the past and understood some of the reasons for her resentment, he felt guilty and didn't dare to appear in front of them righteously. Therefore, no matter how much Fu Zonghong wanted to see Wen and Fu Yun, he didn't take the initiative to appear. He only occasionally drove the car to the flower garden or outside the neighborhood where they lived. Sometimes, he could see them. Fu Zonghong went to the new house. His personal assistant was already there and had cleaned the house. Recently, his personal assistant had a task to report to Fu Zonghong about the whereabouts of Fu Yun and her son every day. After knowing that Wen had started to take many courses recently, Fu Zonghong was very proud. What a good child. He had already found a suitable teacher. Even if she didn't come back to live with the Fu family, she wouldn't reject finding a teacher for her child, right? Now that he heard that his child had found a teacher who was better than him, he was proud but also a little disappointed. He felt that he was useless. However, he heard that these teachers were hired by the celebrity called Siyu. Fu Zonghong was a little dissatisfied. Why was he so concerned? He must be up to no good. He had to watch out for him. His personal assistant also said, in 2 days' time, it will be the premiere of the movie that little young master is involved in. Fu Zonghong's eyebrows relaxed. Get an invitation. It was Sun Sun's first movie. He had to see it with his own eyes. On the other hand, Fu Yun Ruo and Wen carried their luggage to report to the set. This time, even Siyu went with them. Fu Yun Ruo was curious. Aren't you not involved? Siyu said, I'm the producer and the biggest investor. There was nothing wrong with going to the set to inspect. Wen Ruo was dissatisfied. Why are you in the same car as us? When they were face to face, no matter where they looked, they could see each other. How annoying. Siyu raised his eyebrows. We have the same manager. There was nothing wrong with going to the same set in the same car. Wen snorted loudly. Fu Yun Ruo looked at Wen and felt helpless. She felt that Wen had already accepted the fact that Siyu was her father. Otherwise, why would she be so willful? Wen was very sensible in front of others and would never throw a tantrum. There was a saying that said, those who were favored had nothing to fear. In the past, when she did not know the truth, no matter how well she got along with Siyu, she rarely threw a tantrum. Perhaps Siyu also knew that she was special, so she tolerated Wen's awkwardness and even childishly fought with her. If Fu Yun could not get involved, she would not get involved. When the car arrived at the hotel booked by the set, they entered the hotel quietly. Yuan Xian booked a suite for them. There was a room inside and another outside. She and Wenwen could have a room each. The suite was very luxurious. Fuyun Ruo felt that the production team was really giving them face by giving them such good treatment. When Wan and Fuyun Ruo stayed in a luxurious hotel together, they felt that it was a novel experience and were a little excited. They could not help but jump on the bed. When Fuyun Ruo saw this, she felt embarrassed. Fuyun Ruo felt that children who pretended to be mature were very cute, but she liked Wenwen's childish behavior even more. Hence, she was very happy. Not long after, the hotel delivered dinner. There was a children's meal and 3 set meals. Cu and Yuan Xian also came. Cu's room was opposite. It was also a suite, and Yuan Xian was also staying together. This time, when Ruo saw that Yuan Xian was there and did not say anything. Yuan Xian had already said what needed to be said in the car. During dinner, he did not say anything and only reminded them to rest early. After the meal boxes were put away, Cu Ruo and Yuan Xian also said goodbye and left. Cu looked at Fuyun Ruo with a gentle gaze. Call me if you need anything. I'll be opposite. When one was extremely unhappy, he stood in front of Fuyun Ruo and wanted to block Cu's view, but his height was completely negligible. Fuyun Ruo nodded. Good night. Good night. After the two of them left, Wenwen's little expression was still very unhappy. Mom, you were talking to Uncle Yu again. Fuyun Ruo tapped his little nose. All right, let's hurry up and take a shower. We'll sleep later. They still had to wake up early the next day and had to rest well. When Ruo snorted. Fuyun Ruo suddenly said in surprise, We have a little piggy monster in our house? Ruo's face was blank. What monster? Because he always snorts. If that's not a piggy, then what is? Fuyun Ruo said seriously. Ruo reacted. Mom, you're making fun of me. She actually said that he was a piggy. Fuyun Ruo saw Ruo's angry face and quickly surrendered. Mom was wrong. Fuyun Ruo could not help but laugh. Ruo said, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Ruo was so angry that he became a blowfish. He did not snort anymore. Fuyun Ruo hurriedly went to coax the child. The next day, Ruo and Fuyun Ruo were affectionate again. He completely forgot that he had said that he would ignore Fuyun Ruo last night. The production team had already started filming for a few days. When they arrived, the production team was already on track. When Ruo and the others arrived, the director and assistant director of the production team specially came to welcome them. Yuan Xian was in charge of external communication. Fuyun Ruo only needed to smile. After the greetings, Ruo went to try on his makeup. Although Ruo was only a small male lead who did not have many scenes, he still had a temporary dressing room. The little guy wore 2 custom-made sect robes. Compared to the immortal aura of an adult, the child version was very cute, like a white bun. The child's skin was good and did not need much makeup. He wore a small wig and looked like a little fairy. The photographer took a set photo of him. Fuyun Ruo could not hold back and discussed with the photographer to send the photo to her to keep as a memento. Other than looking like a little fairy, he also dressed like a little beggar. His life before he entered the immortal sect was also full of ink. After taking 2 sets of set photos, the morning basically passed just like that. When Ruo only officially started filming in the afternoon. Fuyun Ruo watched from the side without blinking. Cu Ruo did not know where he came from and sat beside Fuyun Ruo. This was the first time this new production team saw Cu Ruo take the initiative to sit beside a member of the opposite sex. They were inevitably surprised and could not help but sneak a few more glances. Cu Ruo was used to being noticed and did not care, but Fuyun Ruo did not notice at all. Cu Ruo smiled and said proudly, When Ruo is like me? In terms of acting, he was full of talent. Fuyun Ruo was also very proud, but she was also worried. Will it help him grow through excessive enthusiasm? It won't, Cu Ruo said with certainty. Now that they let Ruo film, it was very easy and the time was very short. It was similar to playing around. The production team did not dare to pressure Wenwen, and they did not dare to do so either. Ruo was very popular in the production team. Whether it was because they wanted to curry favor with Wen-Wen's connections, or because Wen-Wen was very likable, the entire production team expressed that they liked Wen-Wen very much. He was like a fish in water in the production team, so his leave application was very smooth. The production team did not have any objections at all. Fu Yunruo attached great importance to Wen-Wen's first movie premiere. She specially wore an ice blue long dress and specially dressed up. She even tied her long black hair into big wavy curls. Fu Yunruo rarely put on makeup, so her exquisite dressing stunned everyone present when she appeared. Siyu Ruo had seen many different kinds of beauties, but only Fu Yunruo's beauty moved his heart. He did not hide the admiration in his eyes. Very beautiful. Wen Ruo was like a happy little bee, circling Fu Yunruo a few times. She looked up at her and praised happily. Mommy is so beautiful. Fu Yunruo beamed. Wen Ruo is very handsome too. Wen Ruo wore a custom-made suit and looked cute and cool. When Fu Yunruo looked up at Siyu, her gaze paused and she returned the favor. You're very handsome too. Siyu Ruo was in a good mood. Thank you for your compliment. The group of people headed to the venue of the premiere. There were already many reporters waiting outside. They were full of anticipation for this movie. Regardless of whether it was good or bad, they just wanted to get first-hand information. They couldn't wait to interview her. Invitees entered the venue one after another. The reporters were able to name every guest that was invited. Isn't that the Golden Mouth film critic? Even Mr. Jiang is here. He's famous for his sharp tongue. With Siyu around, she's the only one that Mr. Jiang has publicly expressed his admiration for. Fu Yun and the others did not enter through the main entrance. Instead, they were led in through a small, low-key door by the staff. There were quite a lot of people at the premiere. Many of them had already arrived, but everyone clearly remembered that they were here for business and sat down properly. Siyu led Fu Yunruo and Wen-Wen to the front row. Our seats are here. This was the best seat in the entire competition. The moment Fu Yun went over, she could feel the gazes from all directions. Fortunately, Fu Yun was used to being stared at, so she did not lose her composure. There were 3 seats. Wen-Wen quickly recognized the middle seat and sat down. Siyu didn't say anything. He sat on Wen's left while Fu Yun sat on his right. They waited quietly for the opening ceremony. A staff member walked over and whispered a few words in Siyu's ear. Siyu nodded and the staff member left. Fu Yunruo turned her head and looked over. What's wrong? Siyu smiled. Nothing. Then he asked, Are you nervous? Fu Yunruo answered honestly, a little. Siyu chuckled. I'm a little nervous too. Fu Yunruo was surprised. Was that for real? It's true. I wasn't even this nervous during my first movie premiere. He was the male lead in his first movie and shot to fame. Since he was young, he had never experienced what it meant to be nervous. However, this pair of mother and son made him experience many unfamiliar emotions. When Ruo raised her head and looked left and right, he imagined sitting in the middle to separate the two of them, but it was completely useless. His short stature couldn't separate them at all. He suspected that the two of them had neglected him. When Ruo was secretly sulking. But soon, the premiere of the movie began. The director and the production team representative went up to say a few words. Without much nonsense, they quickly got to the point and started to play the movie. The lights dimmed and the big screen in front of them lit up. Fu Yunruo unconsciously sat up straight and stared intently at the big screen, afraid that she would miss anything. The opening of the movie was a magnificent scene that captured everyone's attention and attracted the audience's attention. The special effects of the movie were produced by a foreign team that the production team spent a lot of money on, and the effect was very obvious. To be honest, many of the scenes in the movie were filmed by Fu Yunruo with her own eyes, but the effect was completely different from the live scene. Actually, she didn't feel much when she was watching it live because there were no special effects. Instead, it was quite funny to see the thrilling expressions and actions in the dry background. But now, with the special effects and the tight plot acting, the audience was able to follow the ups and downs of the emotions in the movie. Until the end of the movie, she was still in a daze for a long time. She didn't know who was the first to clap, but it was exceptionally clear in the pin drop silence. Then, It was sparse and loud applause that didn't stop for a long time. Fu Yunruo kept clapping her hands hard. She was so proud that her eyes were filled with tears. Wenwen, you're amazing. Mom is proud of you. Wenwen Rua's small chest straightened. She wanted to laugh happily, but she felt that she should be reserved. She pursed her lips hard, but she couldn't stop the corners of her lips from rising. If Fu Yunruo knew, this movie would definitely be popular. Even without filters, this was a good movie that was worth watching twice and thrice. Chapter 101. After the premiere ended, it didn't take long for the crowd to disperse. Seeing people coming out, the reporters who had been waiting outside for a long time swarmed forward like sharks that had smelled blood. They surrounded the film critics and put their microphones to their lips. Mr. Jiang, what are your thoughts after watching the movie? Is this sci-fi movie a disappointment? Or is it an unexpected surprise? Will this movie be the dark horse of the summer? Do you think that this sci-fi movie will have a bright future? I won't say anything else. I just want to say that I'm looking forward to the release of this movie. I'm going to take my family to the cinema to watch it again. Mr. Zhang's mind was still replaying the plot of the movie. He couldn't wait to go back and pick up his pen to express his agitated feelings. He didn't think highly of domestic sci-fi movies. Even with a big name like CU joining the cast, he didn't have much hope. After all, sci-fi movies had always been the weak point of the domestic film industry. He originally thought that this would be the first movie that CU had flopped in so many years. Even if he thought highly of CU, he still decided to write his thoughts truthfully. In the end, it turned out that he was too narrow-minded. The history of sci-fi movies was about to be rewritten, and he was going to witness it with his own eyes. Fu Yunruo and the others didn't see the lively scene outside with their own eyes. After her excitement, she decided to celebrate with Wenwen. The mother and son were chatting affectionately when they suddenly saw a familiar figure in the crowd. They were surprised. Siyu obviously already knew about it. He said to Fu Yunruo, Chairman Fu is also here to watch the premiere. Someone had already reported this to him before the premiere, but in order not to affect Fu Yunruo and her son's mood, he didn't tell them. Fu Zonghong noticed their situation and obviously knew that they had discovered him. Hence, he walked over with a straight face. Fu Yunruo didn't want her private matters to be seen in public. In the end, under Siyu's arrangement, the group of people went to a quiet lounge. Why are you here? Fu Yunruo looked indifferent when she saw Fu Zonghong and his assistant. Her excitement and joy were diluted. Fu Zonghong snorted coldly. Do I have to report to you where I go? Fu Yunruo didn't want to quarrel with him, so she frowned and didn't say anything. Fu Zonghong looked at Wenwen's tea, and he tried his best to smile. Wenwen looked up at Fu Zonghong and grabbed Fu Yunruo's hand. She hesitated and thanked him. Then, she pretended to be shy and hid behind Fu Yunruo. To Wenwen, Fu Zonghong was a stranger who was related by blood. His attitude towards him was completely based on Fu Yunruo's position. He knew that Fu Yunruo had a grudge against Fu Zonghong, and the two of them were like fire and water. But this was an old man, so no matter what, she still had to be polite. Fu Yunruo saw Fu Zonghong's humble look. Her gaze swept past his temples, and she suddenly noticed that there was a lot of white hair on his temples. Her heart suddenly felt sour. Fu Yunruo looked at the relationship between the two of them from an outsider's point of view, but the emotions of this body could still affect her. Fu Zonghong noticed the tall man standing beside Fu Yunruo, and his gaze suddenly became very picky. He had investigated Siyu's background before, and it wasn't as simple as people thought. Even with his connections, he still couldn't find out anything about this fellow. This meant that this fellow had hidden himself well. Fu Zonghong directly said to Siyu, I want to talk to you. Siyu smiled, but before she could say anything, Fu Yunruo frowned and said coldly, What does my friend have to do with you? What do you want to do? Fu Zonghong said harshly, You don't even know the background of your so-called friend, yet you let him stay by your side. If you get cheated or bullied, you deserve it. You don't have to worry about that. These friends of mine are all good people. Furthermore, what right do you have to control me? I'm your father, Fu Zonghong said angrily. He didn't have the right to control her. Fu Yunruo was about to reply, but Siyu stepped forward and protected Fu Yunruo behind him. He said politely, Chairman Fu, I personally think that since you didn't care about Ruo 5 years ago, you don't have the right to control her. What do you think? Siyu couldn't understand Fu Yunruo's biological father. Although he had helped to erase the traces back then, with Chairman Fu's ability, if he wanted to investigate, he would definitely be able to find some clues. But after so many years, Chairman Fu had never asked him about it. Even Feng Shuiruo could use Fu Yunruo's name to pester him. But Fu Yunruo's biological father didn't care about his daughter's disappearance, as if he didn't have a daughter. From Fu Yunruo's point of view, it was quite chilling. It was no wonder that Fu Yunruo's attitude towards Fu Zonghong was so cold. Since he didn't think of looking for his daughter for so many years, then what right did he have to control Fu Yunruo's matters? Didn't he feel that it was very hypocritical? With that thought in mind, Siyu looked at Chairman Fu with an unfriendly gaze. Fu Zonghong's face turned pale and he reprimanded. This is our Fu family's matter. What right does an outsider like you have to interfere? Fu Yunruo said, Mr. Yu is right. Since you didn't care about your daughter for so many years and caused her to be wronged and hurt again and again, you have no right to control my matters. Although Fu Yunruo was scared by the plot in her mind and hid when she first came here, she knew that Fu Zonghong was very cold to the original body. If she didn't leave, she would have been chased away. She was right to leave. Fu Zonghong was angry and embarrassed. He didn't care about her at that time because the Chang family's boy and Shuiruo said that she was so vicious that she wanted to drug Shuiruo to harm her. He was so angry that he thought that she hid because she was afraid that he would hold her accountable. Under such circumstances, it was good enough that he didn't sever ties with her. How could she expect him to look for her? But now, he realized that things might not be as he thought. Yunruo might also be a victim. Since you were wronged, you didn't come to me to clarify things. Instead, you hid yourself. You still have the nerve to blame others? If that wasn't the case, would he think that she ran away to avoid punishment? At first, he was angry that her methods were so despicable. She didn't have the demeanor of a young lady from an aristocratic family at all. Later, he didn't see her for a long time. He was worried, but he was always easily provoked by the people around him. He felt that having this daughter was really embarrassing him. Later, no one mentioned her for a long time, and even he almost forgot about this daughter. Now that he woke up, he naturally knew that it was his good stepwife who understood his temper. She always sowed discord without batting an eyelid, and then slowly faded Fu Yunruo's position in his heart. He found that he didn't see through people clearly, and he was also angry that he was deceived. But after all, she had been with him for so many years. Other than using some tricks on Fu Yunruo, she was also wholeheartedly devoted to him. It was very difficult for stepdaughters and stepmothers to get along well. He had been cold to her during this period of time, making her realize her mistake. Did she want them to divorce? They were already so old. He had already put down his pride and took the initiative to ask for peace. What else did she want him to do? Fu Yunruo didn't know what Fu Zonghong was thinking. When she heard him blaming her for not telling him that she was wronged, she felt that it was very ironic. Why didn't I come to you? Shouldn't you reflect on yourself? Since young, how many times have I wanted to seek justice from you because I was wronged? But you only know how to reprimand me and think that I'm being unreasonable. Why do you think that I'll trust you like this? When your daughter was at her wit's end, she didn't come to you, her only relative, for help. Instead, she disappeared completely. Fu Yunruo looked at him and said word by word, because my father is no longer my father. He's someone else's father. So, he wasn't her safe haven at all. In fact, he was one of the sources of her uneasiness. Fu Yunruo didn't feel good in her heart. The resentment in the bottom of her heart and the instinctive closeness to the bloodline. All kinds of feelings were mixed. In general, whether it was the original body or her, they were mostly resentful towards Fu Zonghong. Wasn't the original body's personality becoming extreme caused by these people working together? The only thing that the original body did to hurt others was when Chang Zhuyu insisted on breaking off the marriage with Feng Shuiruo. She lost her rationality, and in the end, her plastic friend hinted to her to drug Feng Shui Ruo to take an ugly photo of her. She was obsessed with it, but she didn't dare to drug Feng Shui Ruo. In the end, she drugged Feng Shui Ruo and only wanted to take an ugly photo. In the end, the only time she did something wrong, not only did she not succeed, but she also suffered a backlash. She became the one who took the drug. The drug wasn't even as effective as the original body's drug. She was the first one who didn't believe that there wasn't a twist in the story. But later on, it became her. She didn't want to face the chaos of that day, so she subconsciously forgot about it and didn't want to recall it. Now that she knew that the person was Siyu, she didn't feel so disgusted about that night. She didn't try to avoid it anymore, so she tried hard to recall the details of that day. She said these words to fight for justice for the original body. It was fine to say that she was biased, but she felt that the original body was forced step by step to become like this. She felt sorry for the girl who hadn't been treated well by the world since she was 5 years old. When the family of 3 was happy and harmonious, no one thought about how the original body had to deal with all this every day. She was like an outsider who didn't fit in. That was clearly her home. Fu Zonghong was like a punctured balloon. His whole body became dispirited. His back suddenly bent down, and he opened his mouth but didn't say anything. They had been together for 20 years. Even if they raised a dog, they would have a deep relationship, let alone a daughter who had been sensible and considerate since she was young. Even if she wasn't his biological daughter, after so many years of being together, he had already treated her as his biological daughter. Compared to his biological daughter who only knew how to make him angry, naturally, the filial and gentle Feng Shui Ruo was more pleasing to him. So he had always hoped that these 2 sisters could get along peacefully and love each other. Reality had proven that all of this was just his wishful thinking. Fu Yun felt a soft and warm feeling in her palm. She lowered her head and saw Wenwen's concerned eyes. Her gaze instantly softened. No matter if it was the original body or her, they already had the most intimate person in this world that they couldn't let go of. They already had the purest kinship. They already had someone who loved them. They didn't need to ask for Fu Zonghong's kinship anymore. Choosing to keep this child back then was the right thing to do. When the personal assistant saw that the boss was so upset that he couldn't speak, he couldn't help but explain to Fu Yun Ruo, "Eldest miss, no matter how unfair Chairman Fu was to you in the past, no matter how badly he treated you, he had never thought of giving the Fu Corporation to anyone else. Before Fu Zonghong remarried, he had made a will and notarized the assets. All of the assets of the Fu Corporation would be inherited by Fu Yun Ruo. In the end, not much would be given to the second wife. It was only enough to ensure that she would have no worries in her old age. Of course, Miss Shui Ruo would also receive a portion. But compared to what eldest miss would receive, it was just a fraction. When Fu Yun Ruo heard this, she laughed sarcastically and said, "So, should I be grateful?" "I'm sorry." The personal assistant adjusted his glasses and said, "I said too much? Forget it." Fu Zonghong looked a little tired. When he looked at Fu Yun Ruo, he was no longer aggressive. "No matter what, your mother's hard work is part of the Fu Corporation. If you don't want it, I'll give it to Wenwen." He worked hard to live for another 10 or 20 years. When Wenwen grew up, he could give the Fu Corporation to him directly. Wenwen was a good child. She would definitely take good care of his mother in the future. When Wenwen heard this, she raised her head and said crisply, "I don't want it." Although the Fu Corporation's huge assets tempted him, he cared more about his mother's feelings. He didn't want to accept other people's kindness for nothing. Moreover, he had already accumulated capital in advance. In another 10 or 20 years, even if he couldn't create another Fu Corporation, he would have the ability to compete with the Chang family and the Fong family. He wouldn't suffer a crushing defeat like in his previous life. Moreover, the Fong family might not even be around in the future. He already knew that the Fu Corporation was the predecessor of the Fong family in his previous life. As long as he stopped the Fong family and their daughter from getting the Fu Corporation, Wenwen's eyes darted around. Fu Zonghong instinctively wanted to get angry, but when he saw that Wenwen looked like Fu Yun Ruo, he couldn't bring himself to be angry. Forget it. Fu Zonghong left with his personal assistant. Wenwen grabbed Fu Yun Ruo's hand and shook it a few times. She patted her chest and said proudly, "Mother, don't worry. When I grow up, I'll create a company more powerful than the Fu Corporation. I'll let you live a carefree life." When Fu Yunruo heard Wenwen's comforting words, she instantly felt warm in her heart. She smiled and said, "Then I'll wait to enjoy life." Wenwen nodded her head seriously. He started to think that when he was older in a few years, his mother would not be so strict with him. Then, it would be easier for him to do things. Then, he would seize the opportunity and set up a company early. Then, he would work hard to film and dominate CU's position. Then, he would accumulate capital and invest in films and television dramas that were destined to be popular in companies with potential. Ahem. CU covered his mouth and coughed heavily. He looked at Wenwan with an unfriendly gaze. He would take care of his own wife. This rascal was dreaming. Moreover, his family assets were worth a few times more than the Fu Corporation. Why would he need to work so hard to start a company? Since this rascal was so ambitious, CU would remember it. Fu Yunruo looked at CU apologetically. "I've made a fool of myself in front of you." CU didn't mind and only promised, "You have me in the future." If it weren't for the fact that he was Fu Yunruo's father, CU would have taken action. However, because of this relationship, his hands were tied and he didn't make a move in the end. Although this episode affected Fu Yunruo and the others' moods in the end, Fu Yunruo was still very happy to celebrate with Wenwen. The internet was also very lively at this moment. The netizens couldn't wait to hear the reviews of the film critics. Although there were already people who had participated in the premiere online, they were more interested in the reviews of the professionals. CU's fans were even more excited. There wasn't much that they could do for the main characters. Only when CU's drama or adulterous advertisements were about to be released would the fans become active online. The more low-key they usually were, the more active they were at this moment. Basically, every social media platform was dominated by the fans. However, even so, the passers-by had a good impression of CU's fans. They knew their limits and didn't make the passers-by feel disgusted. They had a very good impression of this handsome and talented actor. The movies that he acted in represented the quality of the movies. Even if the passers-by didn't chase after celebrities, they would still subconsciously choose the movies that he acted in. This was the scary part about CU. He was very popular with the passers-by. From the elderly to the children, he had a very good reputation. Even if some people didn't have high hopes for sci-fi movies, after knowing that CU was the main lead, they still had high expectations. As expected, the reviews after the premiere online were excellent. Although the plot wasn't revealed, even the most sharp-tongued film critics gave a positive review. Everyone expressed that their wallets couldn't wait any longer. Fu Yunruo saw the reviews online and was really glowing. Wenwan was also singled out by the film critics for praise. Although they didn't directly mention her name, they were very specific and highly praised for Wenwen's role. She was extremely proud and couldn't help but take screenshots of these long reviews to save. It was rare for her to sleep late tonight. She had been wandering around the internet and taking screenshots of all the praises for Wenwen to save as a memento. Fu Yun's excited mood only calmed down a little after midnight. She prepared to sleep, but she didn't feel sleepy. She thought of Fu Zonghong and the special assistant and other words spinning in her mind. Fu Yunruo suddenly suspected the truth of the plot in the original book. In the original book, Feng Shuiruo was the main character. From her point of view, she was a beautiful, kind, gentle, and pitiful girl. However, Fu Yunruo personally experienced that she wasn't that pure and kind. She thought of a possibility. Could it be that the original bodies falling into the water wasn't an accident? As for why they were killed, perhaps it was because of this will? As long as she existed, they wouldn't be able to legitimately take over the Fu Corporation. Previously, she had heard Fu Zonghong say that the Fu family belonged to her, but she didn't take it to heart. But now, she suddenly thought of this. But no matter what the truth was, she would never be able to find out the truth. She was still here, and those things were just her guesses that would eventually be buried in the dust of history. Fu Yunruo frowned. She didn't want the Fu Corporation. She felt disgusted, and it wasn't hers either. Moreover, Fu Zonghong had admitted that the original body's mother had put in a lot of effort into the Fu Corporation. Because of this, she didn't want to destroy the Fu Corporation. Moreover, she didn't have the ability to do so. However, if she wanted her to give the Fu Corporation to the mother and daughter pair, not to mention the original body, she wouldn't agree either. She thought of the second book, where the mother and daughter pair successfully turned the Fu Corporation into the Fong Corporation. They even used this capital to bully her son and forced him into a corner. Fu Yunruo felt suffocated when she thought of her son's future. This time, no matter what, she wouldn't let the Fu Corporation fall into the hands of the mother and daughter pair. She didn't even want to give them a single cent. If she accepted the Fu Corporation, she wouldn't be able to forgive herself. If she gave it to Wenwen directly, she knew that she had a son. As long as she didn't accept the Fu Corporation and forgive Father Fu, Wenwen would never accept it. Fu Yunruo thought for a while and came up with a perfect idea. She would donate the Fu Corporation to the country. The higher-ups should be able to get a guarantee from this sincerity, right? As long as Wenwen didn't do anything illegal in the future, the higher-ups would protect him if he was bullied in the future. However, this was just a thought that flashed through her mind. Fu Yunruo kept it to herself and didn't tell anyone. On the other hand, Feng Shuiruo took the initiative to look for Chang Zhuyu at the Chang family's company. The Chang family had been plagued by misfortune recently. They had just suffered a huge blow and had yet to recover from it when something happened to Orange Entertainment. The Chang family was a major shareholder, and this affected the Chang family too. Recently, one of their subsidiaries was caught committing tax evasion and was being thoroughly investigated. The Chang family had never encountered so many problems before. Especially in recent years, the Chang family's business had been going smoothly, and they had even surpassed the aristocratic families in Qiping. They were in high spirits. However, there had been one incident after another recently. Chang Zhuyu and some of the elders guessed that someone might have done something to the Chang family. However, they couldn't find out who the culprit was. Left with no choice, Chang Zhuyu could only personally oversee the company to calm the employees down. A beautiful female secretary in a professional dress walked in with a cup of coffee. She placed the steaming hot coffee in front of Chang Zhuyu and said coquettishly, "Mr. Chang, this is the coffee I brewed. You must be tired after a long day." Chang Zhuyu didn't even raise his head. He said calmly, "Leave it there first." The female secretary leaned against the desk and leaned over slightly. She said coquettishly, "Mr. Chang, you should rest for a while. If you tire yourself out, Miss Fong will be worried." When she mentioned Feng Shuiruo, Chang Zhuyu finally reacted. He put down his pen and stretched his body as he leaned back. The female secretary stood beside the chair and massaged his shoulders. Her alluring body was slightly pressed against him. That's more like it. When Feng Shuiruo walked in, she saw this scene. She smiled faintly. "Shuer." Chang Zhuyu was pleasantly surprised to see Feng Shuiruo. He stood up abruptly. "Why are you here? Seems like I came at the wrong time." Feng Shuiruo said and turned to leave. "Shuer." Chang Zhuyu hurried over and hugged her. "You have no idea how happy I am to see you here." He was indeed very happy. He was always the one who took the initiative to look for Shuer. She rarely took the initiative to look for him. Every time Feng Shuiruo appeared, he was pleasantly surprised. "Miss Feng, please don't misunderstand. There's nothing between Mr. Chang and me." Just as Chang Zhuyu was about to tell Feng Shuiruo his heartfelt feelings, a delicate voice suddenly interrupted. Chang Zhuyu frowned and looked over. He reprimanded, "Why are you still here? Get out." The female secretary stomped her feet coquettishly. Mr. Chang, however, she didn't dare to say anything in the face of Chang Zhuyu's cold gaze. In the end, she twisted her body and walked out. Before she left, the female secretary glanced at Feng Shuiruo smugly. Feng Shuiruo was just the stepdaughter of the Fu family. How could she be good enough for Mr. Chang? She would definitely seduce Mr. Chang. Chang Zhuyu didn't care what the beautiful female secretary was thinking. He hurriedly brought Feng Shuiruo in, closed the door, and greeted her politely. Feng Shuiruo was very uncomfortable. Anyone who saw their things being coveted would be unhappy. "Who is she?" Feng Shuiruo's expression was calm. She didn't question him, but Changju, you could tell that she was jealous. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.